Yo, how's it going, folks? Welcome to episode 147 of the Simpa Life Podcast. Hope you're keeping well. Hope you've had a wonderful week. As you can probably hear, my voice is getting better from last week. I still have a little bit of a croak. My high notes are maybe getting a bit fractured and broken. But generally, I am back to being able to chat shit, which is good because we are back in the hot seat with another guest. A few things of news to kind of maybe talk about, but I think generally we'll be able to kind of interweave that with the other conversations going off today. Let's not hang about too much and jump straight into an introduction to today's guest, who is a plant enthusiast, hydroponic champion, and cannabis advocate whose love of growing has led them to becoming the Northern, Southern, and Irish sales rep for the Shogun Fertilizer Company. They are Hydro Lewis. How are you doing, brother?
I'm all good, Simpa. Thank you very much for having me. As you know, I'm a huge fan of the show, so I'm just very nervous to be here.
Very nervous to be here. Love it. Love it. Appreciate the honesty. Always do. I definitely appreciate all of the support you've had of the podcast. You share quite a lot of clips. Obviously, you spend a lot of time on the road, so I'm glad I can provide you some entertainment and to give you this kind of meta experience of going through the looking glass, as it were, to be on the other side of the seat. I generally don't listen back to my episodes, but it'd be interesting to get an anecdote from yourself later on as to whether you find yourself listening to this while driving at work in a week or two. But brilliant to have you on, man. Obviously, we've been speaking for quite a while. We've known each other quite a while within the space. And we sat prior for the audience sort of continuity's sake here and came up with a few things that we really wanted to highlight in this conversation. It's obviously there's a lot we could talk about, but I think the topics that we've kind of selected will obviously, between us, we always kind of do a bit of sidebarring. I mean, this is the Simpa Life podcast. I live by sidebarring, but we're generally going to try and have a really decent and in-depth conversation here about the state of the hydro industry sort of in the UK. Before we do that, I think it'd be good for myself and for the edification of the audience for you to answer our cliched first question, which I'm sure you probably know by now, which is when and how did you first get involved in cannabis?
So it was a long one. Obviously, just grew up on a council estate, that sort of vibe. It was mad. So one of my neighbours had a load of like weed posters on his wall as a kid, sort of like the alien with a big giant hanging out the mouth, take me to your dealer and all that.
Yeah.
And then when he was taking all his wall down, I had it. My mum was obviously a bit fuming, but I had it down a little alcove and all that. So that was like year 5. I got Snoop Dogg's Up in Smoke tour and Pirate DVD. And I had obviously Ed Rosenthal doing a normal conference and all that. And I was like, this is me. I've been into growing since I could put my thumb in dirt. Like my grandma got me building my own troughs and stuff like that. So I see all my own chilies and tomatoes. And then just naturally through life, obviously, the medicine finds you and all that. And yeah, just started. I've always been a smoker, but I've always been more down the side of, like you say, sort of an advocate for it rather than it just being, yeah, it's cool, we just grab it and smoke it. I like everything that I feel it can do for the world, obviously bring us together. It's a medicine. We've got the endocannabinoid system. It should be part of our life, innit? So I've just sort of ran with that, done regular 9 to 5 jobs all my life, warehouse jobs and stuff. Obviously always kept a passion for the plant. And then ended up after doing Tesco for a few years, realising obviously I love customer service and that, started working in a hydro shop and then just took it from there. Obviously, nice natural progression. When you're in a hydro shop, all you want to do is be the rep. And now I'm a rep on the road, so see where I go from here, innit?
Nice. I didn't realise you were a veteran of the Tesco wars. I am a fellow veteran. I spent a few years in the trenches. Very interesting corporation that I think we can make jokes of here, but they are quite
gives a good insight.
Litigious. They're an interesting company to work for. I'm trying to think of. There's a lot of things I want to comment on, but I know I don't have the largest platform in the world. But of all of the companies, I think Tesco might be one to have a go at us for revealing some of their practices. So let's call them pricks and move on. So of course, natural progression is here from retail customer service into sort of hydro, merging those loves. So how long were you in the hydro shop sort of before you moved into rep and working with a fertilizer?
So I was only in the shop for about 2 years. It was like year plus. Ended up leaving there. Obviously, lockdown hit. split up with a missus and all that sort of drama. Didn't have a vehicle, didn't have a car. So I was working, literally cleaning in a meat factory. Well, I worked in a rubber factory. I worked cleaning in a meat factory, cleaning in a salad factory. And then it was a mad little twist of fate, to be fair. I moved up to Yorkshire ways, West Yorkshire, out of Manchester, and I started searching Aqualab's Sheffield jobs because I knew obviously I'd used Shogun in the past. Working at the shop, it was one of our best selling brands, so I always pushed for these guys. And then as I've been Googling sort of Sheffield Aqualab's jobs, nothing was about. 2 weeks later, they've posted on Instagram that they need a North rep. So I was like, right, well, that needs to be me, innit? Put in the comments, obviously, this job's made for me, sent him a CV and done the official thing. But then I started getting all the other reps that I'd spoke to in the shop and stuff like that. Started commenting, sort of, I vote for Lewis. You need Lewis, you need Lewis. So that was good too. It was nice. But I did take a little hiatus. So obviously, I had a bit of imposter syndrome where I don't feel like I'm true hydro because I did miss the summer of love that was like earlier. But I lived through this lockdown bit, which was absolute crazy, hydro boom. And yeah, there's a big difference from when I was in a shop in 2018 to being in a shop now. And obviously we'll get into that a bit later about shop culture and stuff like that. But yeah.
Interesting, yeah. So it's something I never really considered, actually, how lockdowns impacted the reps. Like, because I mean, I know some of the I'm not going to name who you are. You know who you are. Some of the hydro shop owners that I know went "fuck you," and they never shut their door for a moment. They never, they never did not before any of that was even classified. They just immediately went no. But yes, how did that then affect the reps? If the hydro shops were essential businesses, as they ultimately came to be declared, which I think everybody can kind of realize what was going on there. Everybody likes to smoke, it would seem. But yeah, how did it affect the reps? Were you guys able to go? I know obviously this was prior to you being in, but do you know if reps were on the road? Were they capable of working at that point?
From what I can gather, so I started with these guys April 21. So it was just after sort of the main lockdown. But from what I can tell, like you say, it was essential business. I think rep visits were few and far between, definitely not as often as they are. Sometimes I'll be on the road and the shops can testify. If it's a nice sunny day, you'll get 4 reps in, you'll get more reps in than customers. They'll all come through with a few beers and that, and it's a laugh. But yeah, like obviously it was few and far between through them times, but it seems like as well, they wouldn't have really wanted reps in the shop because when you've got a shop full of customers, you don't want to be serving people. And that's one big thing during the lockdown and after the lockdown. So like I say, I saw it all through 21. It was just like, I always say you could have stood on a street corner with a feed chart, like big issue, and someone would have come and bought it off you. Everyone did well during 2021. That's why so many new shops opened up and stuff like that, because it is literally like all the builders got furloughed. They thought, oh, well, I'll do the thing anyway, I might as well. Or the mates seen them spend a bit over the counter and thought, oh, if I open a shop because I'm not doing out, will you come and shop with me? So during 20 and 21, the hydro industry just seen an absolute boom. But in that, obviously, it started getting targeted with the banks and stuff. I heard at one point the banks had said that they're going for aesthetics, scrap metal, and hydroponics because they were the 3 largest cash industries. So obviously that's where 22 and 23 was just the year of you can't bank at all. No, you can't even put money in to pay your VAT bills. So it swings and roundabouts because it did have a boom. And like what you say, obviously everyone likes to smoke. And it's all, I always say that you can't really control what your customers are doing. And that's the big thing of the industry. But for the most part, it was little old days that would go into B&Q or Dobbies. They're not getting the same advice that you can at a hydro shop. And I think during hydro, because there was such a boom of it and people not working, people are in the greenhouses. So a lot of the like black market growers, they've also got allotments. They're on there chatting to the old days about bits. So then before long, you've got actual like civilian customers coming in. Do you get what I mean? Because that's one thing that we did have in the shop that I worked at. It was a lot of like regular custom. We had normal people, as you call them, coming in and like little old days, and I'm teaching them how to get the best out of their petunias. Yeah. So it is like some of the shops, it was good for them to start seeing legitimate custom and that. And yeah, it was nice.
Do you think it then led to sort of more of a normalization? Because I mean, I've always seen hydro shops as like garden centers for growers. But you don't necessarily have to obviously be a cannabis grower. But if you know and they know, and obviously, we're all talking about tomatoes anyway, it's a comfortable space. It's a safe space. You feel like you are with family. You feel that you're not going to be judged. So a lot of hydro shops now will have like pool tables. I'm not necessarily sure on the licensing, but we'll have bars. We'll have, a lot of social spaces that they've then created.
The best thing with that a lot of the time is, like you say, licensing. It's not even a bar. We've just got beers in. Come and crack them. Like, it's you're here as family. I always say, like, if you step foot in a grow shop, you bleed green like me. And unless you come flexing that trigger, I dig you. Like, we're all one big family, innit? We are a community. And that is the thing. That I've been in a shop before now, and you've seen people come in, and I say it was a local shop to me, and you can see when people don't really get on, but then they'll see each other in the shop, and the first time they see each other, and it's iffy. And then the second time, they'll mention about, oh, well, I've used them lights before. One of them obviously extends the olive branch. And then before long, they're in chatting, and then they've got a room together. And it's not, obviously, it's not going to fucking bridge divides and all that. We can't solve the postcode wars, but it's just nice to have like that little neutral zone. Do you get what I mean? Where it is, you can come in, you can sit, you can chill. Like you say, the old days have got like dobbies where they can sit in the garden centre and talk all this through. And I've had shops before now when obviously it can be quiet sometimes, and a lot of the time they'll come in, you'll give them all the advice in the world, and they'll go buy it on Amazon a lot cheaper anyway. So it is hard, but a lot of the shops will say, well, not a lot, but I've had shops say to me in the past, we're not here to be the therapist. But I'm like, but you're the only person they can speak to. They've got a missus and 2 kids that couldn't give 2 shits about it. Everyone in the pub thinks that they're just a plasterer. Do you get, like, you are the only person that they can talk to. And like you say, we all skirt around it. Like, I don't need to know what my customers are doing, but we can talk pretty openly because we're all from at least the same walk of life. On that customer though as well, I always say it's like with Tesco where we were sitting. So obviously I worked at a Tesco on my estate as well. And I knew the guys that had come in, and they'd buy a load of cling film, and they'd buy a load of surgical gloves, and they'd buy a load of baking soda. And Tesco's never had their bank shut down. Do you get what I mean? That you don't know what customers are doing.
Well, 100%. Even if you kind of do know, you kind of can't do shit. You kind of shouldn't be supposed to do shit. I mean, I worked on produce. I was team leader in the produce department for about 3 years. I wasn't team leader for the full time, but for about 3 years I worked at Tesco. And we had a guy that came in and kept buying fucking, was it melons or some shit? And then one day, one of the other guys that I work with, I'm not going to name the guy. I was going to there, but I shouldn't name the guy. And he basically went, well, I've heard that he's taking those melons home, he's drilling into them and he's putting them in the microwave to warm them up. And he's, using them as a sexual aid. Like, and could have been jesting or whatever, but it became kind of a running joke, whenever the guy was sort of saying it, he would go buy his melons, Just because something can be used for something doesn't mean, do you know what I mean? Because it's the whole thing of like the argument of, I was quite a prolific self-harm when I was younger. It is quite an addictive thing. It is, you get into a complex mindset of, it's basically like biohacking your body in a weird way. You get to a point where you release neuroadrenaline and endorphins and positive hormones through harming yourself.
This thing feels a little bit better than feeling shit for the next half hour.
Well, yeah, it's slightly more so. Obviously, you've seen me. I'm quite covered in scars, so a bit more than a sort of sting, as it were. But yeah, it's the pain becomes pleasure. It's a warped thing that happens within mentality. But anyway, there's a big conversation that would happen in those circles for years of going, no, just remove the sharp objects from somebody. And like, do you know what? Everything you would have to remove CDs, anything that is breakable, any plastic, any glass, do you know what I mean? Anything could be used as a weapon. So if we looked at it in that way, what's that Riddick film? He kills somebody with a teaspoon or some shit. Do you know what I mean? It's like
people find a way.
We'll always find a fucking way. Yeah. So if it's then something that exists, again, not to necessarily say the Americans are right in their approach, but their culture is saturating guns. So you need some form of regulation on guns because guns are going to exist. You can't just ban guns because there's millions of guns. It's the same approach.
And the thing is, when they do, obviously, it's only the baddies that have got them. It's not worth it, like you say.
But yeah, it's so
regulated.
you have to yeah, exactly. So the same with the hydroponics is it's accepted as an industry. A large part of that, yes, will go towards cannabis cultivation, but they are.
Sorry to interrupt, but a lot of the shops that you speak to, they say like back when we started, customers were coming in with footy stadium lights that they dropped and say, "How can I wire this in? I've got to do a crop." And you're like, so ultimately, how many footy stadiums are better off through the hydro industry?
Well, yeah, it's as you say, it's this whole thing of it's paying tax, it's paying jobs, it's creating industry. This thing is going to exist anyway, as you say. So if you can have somebody in there that's going to give them a quality light or something else like that that's then more energy efficient, if there can be that innovation so people can spend that money on the crop, they're going to be less likely can afford to spend the money on the lights and the equipment to set up the crop and run the crop. They're less likely to then steal the electric. They're less likely to commit other criminality. So again, I can't see there being the problem. For all, there has been a couple of shops that have been caught up in like collective stings, as it were. Basically, they've found massive amounts of equipment at huge industrial grow sites with effectively receipts gone back to the business, and they've got tied up, and that will get settled in court. And I think ultimately, hopefully, a rational mindset will prevail, and the individuals, the proprietors of that business, unless they physically were growing it themselves, which I can't speak of, but if they weren't, which I don't think they were, I'm not alleging that, then they shouldn't be caught up in that criminality. That's no different than, like you said, a kid stabs another kid, but he bought the knife from Tesco.
Yeah, we served him.
We are saving the kid. Yeah, actually, okay, maybe that's different because it's age restricted, but because it would then be on the head of actually who got it, they could then be fined and lose their job. So there is an accountability there. So
I'm a mank. We call everyone a kid. You can be 48-year-old.
With that, exactly that. To clarify, then a younger person stabbing another younger person, if they were of age and they bought that knife, where they bought their knife, that isn't the issue. Do you know what I mean? And that's, I think the problem again, it comes down to sort of a class thing, and I think that's what
we've had a lot of the shops. Sorry, again, interrupt. We're going to have this a lot through this episode, I promise. But a lot of the shops where they've had like young lads who's just working there, it's the first job out of school. Feds have come in, buddy, police, we don't have feds, have come in and said, obviously, I need to have a talk with you down the station and that, because they've found their fingerprints on lights, found their fingerprints on pots, on bags of soil. And the argument will always be sort of like, is it on the fixtures and fittings? Is it on plug sockets and light switches? Because if not, I sold them that shit. That's, you go to a lot of the shops now and they've got the gloves on. Mm-hmm. But then again, that all just comes down to like conditioning. Like you say, like grow shops, hydro shops, it should be a nice community place. But a lot of the time, it feels dark and dingy because we're conditioned to feel dark and dingy.
Well, yeah, I make this joke all the time that the biggest purchaser per capita of black bin bags, quality heavy duty bin bags in the world is the hydro industry. They go through fucking thousands. Everything is bagged to leave the building because nobody wants, and most companies have got smart to it with the boxing and the packaging and whatever else that you can't quite tell what it is. But then a lot of other companies, because they're operating in markets where they can be so bold and open, or because they are marketed as separate from cannabis, then we'll leave the branding in such a way that, yeah, you have to cover that to move it from A to B. And it's you say it's that kind of the culture that is created there as a consequence of this. And that, as you said, the banking became a huge problem. So they were talking, I think, initially 60-40, but I think it's now going higher. So they wanted 60 digital sales, like transactions, and then 40 cash.
Yeah, the last I heard was 70-30, but I think they're trying to get it to like 90-10. I was in a shop the other day and he actually got a phone call from the bank saying, you put in a lot of cash in, is there any way you can start to take more card payments? And I sort of switched. I was like, did they not see that? I get that that's just a bird on the phone. She's got a family to pay for and all that. She's just doing a job. But you've got to see that you're part of some bigger thing to remove cash and like... Obviously, we can get a whole of an episode, but
I mean, we can sidebar. You know, you've watched enough of these to know we can fucking sidebar. I don't personally think it's. I think there is something towards these centralized digital currencies, but several countries have backed out of this and pulled down their models. I think the volatility. Sorry, 2 seconds. The volatility within the market. And what we know from what we learned in 2008, it was liquid cash, mostly drug dealer money that kept the world afloat. We were all, it was government bailouts and IOU. No. It was drug money. Everybody pulled out the shit from under their mattresses, and that went back into markets. People started buying assets and having to move shit around, and countries and banking institutions and financial institutions were kind of like, we need to, I don't care, where did that come? La, la, la. Okay, yeah, ooh, we got money now, it's okay, it's fine. They didn't care where it fucking came
If suddenly
from.
we're afloat, it's cool.
Look at HSBC and everything that happened there. They took, God, I'm going to mess the number. It was over 100 billion that they ended up fucking financing through. 10, no, it's always about 10 billion. I always get, when I try and read the zeros in my head, it gets a bit mental. It was a large number of money. HSBC got done for laundering, and basically they had to pay a fine of like 10 million, 15 million or something. So they paid a small fine, but made all of this profit, and they were told, like, don't do it again. And they're like, we're sorry, we won't work with the cartels anymore. But yeah, I think
that Iceland jailed their bankers.
And that's the way it should have gone around the fucking world. Like, Jesus Christ. I mean, obviously, Northern Rock up here, like, they were giving 110% mortgages and shit, and they were just setting people up to fail. It was all part of this. It's just the middle and upper class robbing the lower class. That's all I ever see with this. And I think the reason that the institution, the British institution especially, hates home growing as a concept is lower class people growing their way out of poverty.
Well, that's what
pisses them off.
UK are the largest producer and exporter of cannabis, and it is not.
Probably not anymore, I don't think. We were, obviously, for many, many years.
Yeah, well, that's so all during this time and all the facilities that are going up and down the UK and stuff like that, and it's not kids off the estate. Do you get what I mean? Where you've mentioned before, sort of in New York, the first round of licenses, they literally said, if you've been jailed for a cannabis offence and you've got someone in your family that owns a business, you get a license because you was wrongly prosecuted. And that's the thing. And that's like where you say home growing, it does sort of put the power into the hands of us poverty stricken, because the thing is as well, we wouldn't even be doing it to try and pull ourselves out of the trenches. We'd be doing it to sort of make out of smoke and just make sure that my daughter's brown paid for.
We don't have we don't have the scalability in the same way. Look, home growing, if then by that definition is in your home, most of us lot, because of things like bedroom taxes and all the other things that have happened in the class warfare that was intensified under austerity under Cameron and fucking George Osborne, literally anything that we would make would just put us onto the surface. We'd be able to tread water again and breathe for a little bit. That's all it would do. It would literally, as I keep advocating for, it would pay for children's meals, their school uniform. Do you know what I mean? It would pay for childcare, for dentistry. It would pay for all of these things that we look around and see everybody is just fucked with, because people have to line up and go, no, food is the everyday. These bills, or else they take my house. And when they keep rising and rising, you need something to put into that. So like you said, during lockdown, so many people, dealers couldn't get to spaces. The industrial growers couldn't get access quite often to their shit because they couldn't hide in the crowds anymore in big cities. They were obvious. So loads of people went into micro production, and everyone started to like you said, the summer of love, or that like honeymoon hydro period. And a lot of people became self-sufficient. Like I said, that they'll grow enough so that they don't pay for it themselves. That's enough for them. All their other money that they make in other ways can then pay for all their other bills. And like you said, this help a few friends out, which means that they can then go, I can finally replace my shoes after the first time in 3 years. Do you know, people look at cannabis dealers and the image they have in their head is like Rolex, Benz, stupid money off all the Cali packs. And yes, that's a certain class of dealer. But Dave, my mate Dave, I don't have a mate Dave. I do wish I did have a mate Dave, but as I always talk about, Dave the grower down the road, who isn't actually down the road, but Dave, that kind of guy, you know what I mean? He's literally maybe he has a holiday once a year or whatever. There's an expense, but everything there is tax. It's not luxury goods. It's not pushing up the stock price of Louis Vuitton. What's the combination company now? Louis Vuitton, Hennessy, and fucking Moët, or Moët Hennessy. I can't remember what order it is. That's like the biggest company in the world. And they've got the biggest capture because of what happened during lockdowns. All the rich people couldn't go to fucking restaurants, or they couldn't spend their money. So they just kept making more and more and more, and the governments kept giving them more and more and more money. So they just bought more and more stuff, which guess what? Made them more and more fucking money. And whose money was that? As Gary Stevens pointed out, it was our money.
That's what always gets me. Everything that they say is government funded. It's your funded. It's my funded. It's our funded.
And because they avoid tax, they're getting it from us. This is the thing where I said, what is wrong with the hydro industry? What is wrong with people home growing? The average home grower pays tax on, if they're doing it, again, I say properly, and I clarify that language to mean with no other criminality. They're paying tax on their electric, on their water, on their feeds, on their fucking seeds, on their initial equipment. Do you know they pay more tax than Google, than Amazon, than Microsoft, than most of these huge corporations that are, again, just asset stripping? Whereas Dave down the road, like I said, if Michael or whoever comes and knocks and goes, oh, Dave, mate, I don't get paid till next week, but my back's acting. Oh, there you go, mate. Bit of ticky, bit of chucky. Do you know what I mean? Not by violence, not by force, not by anything else, not by coercion. There would just be that open space. We had a wonderful thing at the peak of it up here in the north in Durham. Well, there's probably a collective of like 15 people that all grew and nobody sold to each other because no one fucking needed to. Someone would just go, I'm having a shortfall, ring a mate and go, oh, I'll lend you 2 ounces. I'll lend you an ounce.
Box it off
and so there was no money in that economy. Nice. Do you know what I mean? Occasionally there would, if somebody was like, shit, my car broke down, they'd then either ring one of the mates in that circle and they'd happily either buy off them or help them connect to somebody. So then the money came back into that collect. And that's what I want to see is these autonomous collectives where we're using cannabis, yes, frankly, as a cash crop. But we're not undercutting each other.
This country, I'm glad we've got onto this about the economic and that. Because I've seen about your Dan Air episode sort of thing, and I'm literally made a note on that. But parking charges in town centres, it's like we look at how to refuel the economy the wrong way. So instead of dropping parking charges in town centres and letting everyone go to the shops and buy shit, the council and the government and that turn around and say, well, up the parking charges so that when people come, we'll get paid double and that'll boost the economy. And where did you go to school? Who taught this, innit?
But this shows that it is entirely about profiteering and taking your money, because what did they do? My fine listeners all across the UK, in your city, and I guarantee you it was in your city because they did it every fucking where. What did they do during lockdowns? Oh, suspended parking fees. To what? Stimulate the number of people that will come to your town centre. Okay, so if that's then factoring the whole this, how is it then, later on, when they want to get back to the usual thing of fucking buying up every high street and buying up all this space, not to ever regenerate it or to refurbish it or to, renew it and bring it up to the modern times. No, it's to sit on it for another 5, 10, 15 years. That's an investment. Those properties, for the average person, even your wage, most people, even your bosses, the houses are making more than those people, than you. Every year, that makes more.
As long as you can have it, let the businesses go.
Exactly. So
they don't need to buy them out.
Exactly. That's why the business rates are so high. There's a guy I want to approach to get on the podcast, guys. And if I get him, you're going to be like, what the fuck? Because I don't think he does drugs or has ever done drugs, but I love him. I'm nerdy as shit. And he just travels around. He's called Wandering Turnip on YouTube. And he just goes into like towns and shits and just looks for empty shops. And he's doing a series called Death of the High Street right now, where he travels around and he shows you like the rates and the values and whatever else.
Two industries could be very intertwined.
Exactly. That's what basically, and this is what I pitch. Is like, dude, we keep saying this thing of like, look at houses and rent and the cost of this, and but retail space. My city centre in Durham, the Prince Bishop's, this huge fucking shopping centre and car park that was only built. Come on, brain. 20 odd years ago, maybe a little bit further back. God, I'm getting old. Christ. All right, maybe closer to 30. Hold my hands up. That's all become student accommodation of fucking hotels. And the city has been massively gentrified in Durham City and is continuing to do so. And it's collapsing. But now the students, thank bless them, I've had my problems with yous, but they're rebelling and refusing to pay the rents and they're not filling the rooms. And the council, which is then corrupt and fucking basically selling off the city to the fucking university, are in this kind of to and fro, but there's all this space that, like you said, it's just a piece of paper. Oh, this isn't commercial now. Cross out commercial, residential. People can live there now. Do you know what I mean? It's the space. It's like you said, it's about taking that fucking money. And I'm going to rant about something local here that's very esoteric. But the Seaham car park near me. Seaham is a world famous beach for picking sea glass. Right? You know, sea glass. Like
I've seen you out on Instagram. Yeah, with a bit.
Yeah, man. As you said, I've got fucking maybe 50 of my houseplants are filled in the bases with fucking sea glass that I've picked. I've got like glass jars full. It's that because that's where I go hyper focus. When my brain would get too much, I'd drive to the beach, roll 2 joints, walk 1 joint up, picking glass, and walk 1 joint back, and then come home. You know what I mean? And be with pockets full of glass. So you'd lose yourself with the sound of the waves, and even if it was raining, whatever. They've now enforced £3 a day charging up there, which doesn't sound much. I know, again, people are like, £3.
It's just the principle of it, though, and it's the build-up of it.
It is the principle, but it's also then... the means by which they'll then seek to enforce that, because then in order to do that, they've had to spend tens of thousands of pounds painting double yellow lines everywhere for like a mile around it. All of Seaham High Street they've then turned into it. So they've invested all of this money, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds, to insert signs at the machines. And now because the machines got vandalized, we need to put up cameras. We need to then maintain that infrastructure. We need to put up, like you say,
parking apps.
Because they're all private fucking firms, and they went to school with the same dickheads that are in the councils. Yeah, but this is the point of all of it, as we say, dude. It's not about serving the needs of the public. It's about, oh, Dave, you've got a fucking data company, don't you? I've just got a job with a council, and that's all it is. It's about money and money and money for them. Yeah, and 100%. That's real criminality. The dealers, think of even your worst dealer, minus the violence, if the violent exclude that from your brain. But I mean someone you're thinking who's just like exploitive, not only 2 gram 20s, that's all you fucking get, and someone's just cash and mentality. I can't begrudge that. I can't begrudge their kind of, all they are is the same version as that. But I would still say they're less harmful to society than what these fuckers are doing.
That's it. Their reach is a lot less. Yeah, that one guy, even like you say, take the fucking worst ones, take the being white kids on the estate and all that are absolutely decimating estates, and you see them decimate full fucking estates. I've seen total areas destroyed for it. But they're not doing the whole country. Do you get what I mean? Like, the people that are actually up there, like, they are just fucking it completely.
It's small.
It seems to be just like, it's obviously we've spoke about this for years and years and years, puppet masters and all that shit. There's other people pulling the strings. But you just see so much like distractions and all that. So obviously I've got my mates now that talk about how bad it was growing up to be like a black kid on the estate. But if I did, like, I'm not saying race isn't a thing, but our biggest thing in this country, I'd say, is, like you say, class. It is rich. It is fucking literally, they look like with scumbags. Outside of the city of London, fuck yous, innit?
Yeah, I think, as I spoke about in sort of a previous episode, if you look at the ethnic and racial configuration of and heritage, of a lot of the Tory peers and people that we've had in government over the past sort of 10, 15 years, they are not what those Britain for British kind of racist Gammonites would then be like. No, he's not white David, Michael, John, those biblical names. Do you know what I mean? And so they'll have that kind of that judgment of it. But that's now, the Tories became the party of these people because of the economics. The money became far more important. But now what we've seen is coming out of the other end of this is the tying up of migration and immigration and finances. And so we've almost got this amnesia, and we've forgotten that they just printed £800 billion and robbed it. They've been,
we just forget everything.
Yeah, and as you said,
we've had an election in 11 years. We just get a changing party leader.
Yeah, it's been fucking
amnesia,
mental. But as you said, the kids on the estates, very few of them are actually just of their own class and group working. The majority of people, I'm sorry if this is going to fucking annoy some people, are the upper class. You don't think that the guys in bank suits, business suits, there's a few references in mainstream media you'll see every now and then in a film or whatever, and it's what you think of as the gangster top boy kind of guy. He's working for oh, how you doing? Oh, yes. Well-to-do posh, they've always ran this shit. The Brits have ran this for 500 fucking years. Just look at our history. We've never given this up before. We even classified shit as drugs when we took over the Silk Roads, when we internationalized slavery in the global colonization. Well, yeah, like all of it. We've owned this shit since. So, like, for all we were a holdout of prohibition, and it might have took us a minute, we've really got our fingers into how to monetize this shit. We're the purveyors and the vanguard of the medicalization of cannabis, and now we're moving into other drugs.
This is what I always try arguing, that like we are the old. Obviously, you'll probably be better with the facts and figures and dates, but as far as I know, we're the oldest functioning country going. Do you know what I mean? That has stayed pretty much how we are. Like, we've been UK for however long. We've been England since bloody Athelstan and all that. Like,
I think we could be argued to. No. God, there's so many things going off in my brain right now. So I'm thinking, if you take like the consideration of England, like Britannia, Britain, Great Britain, UK, because we've been different configurations, because obviously at different points of the Isle of Isle was Ireland. Scotland was an independent nation. I can't remember the order in which it goes, by which England sort of conglomerated to create the UK. But I think we became the UK. Oh God, my British history is terrible here. Did we become the UK or were Britain? When basically Northern Ireland got sort of segregated. I think that's when we became UK.
Yeah.
The United Kingdoms. I
Well,
think was what it
from
was.
however far back that like the British Empire and shit have been doing it since the
Mm,
hemp decrees of the Tudor days and all that.
mm.
We've said that this is dangerous. This is harmful skunk now. Since we had it in decrees and it was law to
Wait.
actually grow.
Mm,
Basically, we've put shit in place and we're a really old country and we know how to fucking control it. So where people are saying now, oh, we'll follow America. America have done it. Come on. And I'm like, America's a little pet project that's been going for the past few hundred years. It's not, obviously, I don't want to offend the Americans over that, but like, I can't see this becoming a legal thing in Britain in the next 5 years just because we get embarrassed by Germany and America. Germany's been a country since the World War. Do you get what I mean? And America's
yeah,
a new
yeah.
Britain. We're stuck in our ways, and it's egg on our face. We've called this
Yeah.
harmful skunk for too long.
Wait, I think sort of to maybe not clarity. Provide a bit of clarity towards sort of a few of the points there. We obviously during the sort of Henry VIII era, you were able to pay tax in cannabis. You were not just incentivized, but could be jailed if you had more than, was it 4 acres?
And you were
More than four, I think it was more than 4 acres, and you had to dedicate a quarter of an acre per X amount of acreage had to be towards producing cannabis reserve. And then obviously, yeah, when we colonized the US as part of like the European colonization project prior to the establishment of the United States and their independence, in Jamestown, I always get these mixed up. Jamestown was the massacre, wasn't it? That was the Kool-Aid. So is it Jonestown? I need to reread several books. But yeah, one of the colonies, one of the
family. So that's the massacre. Jim Jones was the massacre.
Yeah. So it was the colony in Virginia. Anyway, it was the colonies in Virginia. They were decreed and had to basically you were forced to grow cannabis, and so we had a very positive view on cannabis. It wasn't really in record that we started having an issue with it until around the probably early 1800s. Actually, I think the main record that I can think of is a general complaining to the head of the empire who was working in Mauritius, which was one of the British islands that we'd sort of taken over. And they were basically stating that the native laborers were consuming of a plant that made them lethargic and lazy. And then this kind of spread, and then we ended up with shit in like the Indian regions that we were running, and various of the spots where basically over the next decade or so, there just became this narrative that the indigenous folks, obviously the non-white is the way they basically were like, oh, well, they're not us, and look at what they're doing. They're not, working as hard, and we're having to beat them and having to fucking like do all these things.
Yeah, they're like brandy and productive. These fuckers are having a fucking smoke.
That's exactly the thing. But they saw it almost as this is what was causing their defiance. This is what was causing them. So the laziness and the lethargy was almost a way of speaking to them being less. I think actually, I'm thinking back to one of our Product Earth demonstrations, things, and one of the slides. I think there was one of the group of colonies that basically stated, that stated that, yeah, it was a lack of productivity. Cannabis reduced productivity. I think that was the actual terming, was productivity. And it was basically just stating that, yeah, they were not picking as much fucking beet. They weren't like breaking down as much sugar beet. Sorry, they weren't as active in the trade that the white man believed that they should be. And obviously, it's if you're enslaved to something, if you're forced to do something, who the fuck's going to do that with enthusiasm? And then if you're forced by the kosh, even worse, like actual violence, then it's that sort of next level bullshit. But yeah, basically, from that, it always became that the other people's drug use is bad. And that still exists today in Parliament. They found methamphetamine in the Home Office. They found coke constantly in Parliament. And yet they're like, well, these drugs and all these out here. Yet on the weekends, they are fucking on it.
The amount of dirty looks we get at all these fucking events, obviously not smoking events, they're nice, but like when you're out in public or you walk in a pub, it fucking stinks, and there's signs up, there's no drugs and all this. But you see the one group of lads that are flicking to the toilet, and then you see the bar owner just flick upstairs for 5 and come down beaming.
Yeah, exactly. Either they're into it themselves or they recognise that, no, actually, they'll drink more alcohol. So they can overlook the morality because
The
they're
better
making
customer.
money from it, and that's exactly what I feel is happening right now with prescription cannabis in the UK. I don't know if you've seen, but cookies are going to be coming to the market as a
Yeah, just seen it
medical
before.
producer. And again, I keep commenting, no offense to either the plug or Big Nasty, but I just can't help but feel that we're just causing such a muddying of the waters that if then these big recreational brands that, according to our POCA, the Proceeds of Crime Act, would make them international criminals, can then have a
Ample
subsidiary,
skunk.
and
But
then
is
it's
it or isn't it? Because it's
it's
totally different. It's not just cannabis sativa L, is it? It's capital M medical.
well, exactly. They've created a system of manipulation and control that as long as you've got the paper, as long as you say the word medical, and then you get it in your little tub and it's got your little sticker on, you don't think where that weed has come from. You don't think what that weed is. We still don't know what most, if any, of the prescription cannabis medications are grown with. There isn't this transparency or honesty. I mean, this leads us on to something obviously we wanted to discuss, which is sort of the traditional argument of like organic versus mineral salts. So, what would you think then, given your expertise and experience, then would you say would be the best things to be producing these medicines on? I know you might have a slight bias here, but
I was just going to say, definitely not an expert. No one's ever an expert. The more you know, the less and all that shit. But yeah, it depends what you're going for in theory. So obviously with organics, it's a lot more of a slow process. I think you definitely need to chat to someone that knows organics a lot better because there's some kids that I chat to where they get into the soil science and it's a different ball game. But it is a lot of like I always say, don't matter how organic you want to be because there are varying levels of organic. If you have a deficiency, whack a mineral and it's gonna get in there a lot quicker. Do you get what I mean? Ultimately, your plan, I always say it's like if we go out now before the gym or something and we have a big scram and you eat a load of beef and I eat a load of chicken, look at our cells. We've got protein in us. We've not got beef cells in us or chicken cells in us. Ultimately, it don't know where it took it from. And I feel like that's the same with the plant. Ultimately, it takes up nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus. It doesn't really. Obviously, it's better to get it from a cleaner source than a shitter source. There's varying levels of sources, but it doesn't exactly know that it's got that from. If you're doing Korean natural farming and you've put banana peels in there, or if you've actually whacked in a PK booster, it just knows that, oh, I've got PK and it was ultra available right then and there. With organics, it's sort of, you've got to go through the time and break it down. But then again, where you sort of look at regulations and that. So for a crop to be, basically all hydroponic crops can be labelled organic in America. So for like their food crops. So anything that's grown in polytunnel with big like vertical farming and stuff like that, it's labelled organic as hydroponic. I'm not sure if they've changed it or whatever, but this was the case last year. So then you just sort of look at it like, so is hydroponic fully organic? Because I'm sure you could use, like, I know organic growers that are doing really well on Instagram and stuff like that, and they'll give it a little tickle with a little booster that we all fucking know and love. And so I think it's one of them. It's people always say organic's cleaner. I don't think that is the case. I think it's what you're into. I've never grown organic, so I don't really want to get into that too much. But I do think it's sick. I do think I've seen people where they do struggle with organics, turn off it straight away. They start saying, oh shit yield, shit. Ultimately, we used to have people all the time come in and they'd buy the full range of an organic brand. And then I'd go to offer them this one product that was the dearest product in the range. And they said, oh, no, it's too dear. I'm just going to do it with this. And that one product is where you get your yield from with that certain organics range.
yeah,
So you're like, there's that little bit, and then you see a lot of people where they're running organics, where they've got they've gone with a sick living soil company, they've tested their soil, they've got it all bang on, and then they've put it in a 20 litre pot or an 11 litre pot. And with organics, it's very much on your battery size, to my understanding. Sort of the bigger the pot, the more organic activity you get going on there, the better that it goes. So if you've got it in a 20 litre pot and then you're fuming that every few weeks you're having to put more nutrients in because you've got deficiencies, so you will end up switching to a mineral because it gets it in quicker. And ultimately you'll go and tell all your mates, oh, fuck this range, fuck that range, because you don't like organics. You just didn't really do it right.
yeah. No, I think
So I think a lot of the time mineral, it's a lot of organics you can get in a bottle, but with mineral it's like you can get it there, you can put it in drippers. it's a nice overall sort of happy thing.
It's I feel mineral feeds are a lot more plug and play, a lot more
That's
forgiving.
it.
There are a
I do
lot.
want to stress as well.
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, go on. I was just going to say that we are like as close to organic as you can get without the certificates. It is all naturally derived, but it is considered a mineral feed over an organic feed.
Yeah. And I think, again, for clarity's sake for people at home, that it's becoming another one of those false binaries, really, as organics and mineral. Because a lot of the organic sources are mineral derived. It's just it's in sort of composition, but generally, as Lewis was sort of saying there, you've got your three primary elements, which will take a plant from seed to its inevitable evolution, in the same way with which I could eat rice every day and still live for years to come. But I would grow to have deficiencies, weaknesses. I would limit my overall potential and lifespan, etc. I'd say, first time growers probably go with minerals, just like for exactly what you say. Understand what the plant is saying, how it's talking to you, because anything from once you've got plenty of years experience, you can basically pick up your pot. Do you know what I mean? You pick up your pot and look at it, and then they're the two things, and you go, wait, that's slightly heavier than it should be at this point. She's logging water. Why? Why she's pushing? She's locked out this nutrient crap. I need to do. Like you need to
can learn all the other aspects of growing before, because I do think that is a big thing. Like one of the reasons I love our range, when I first ever used it a while back now, I got told to use it. We had 100 litre flexi tank, a 10 litre jug, and they were saying pour it for 3 and stir it till the stick flashes. They didn't have a clue how to use it. We didn't have a feed chart in sight, but ultimately we could spend time on dialing in the room and making sure that we was getting like growth techniques in and stuff like that. And I do think that's the thing where you can get so deep into it you can't see the wood for the trees. And as a first time grower or something, I always have like an example of sort of like, we've got a product, so our Sumo Boost and Sumo Active Boost. Our Sumo Boost was our original boost product, and it's formulated to stay stable in your tank for 24 hours. You basically make a mix, hand feed, use that. Sumo Active Boost we've developed there, it'll stay stable in your tank for like 7 days, up to 14, but we recommend using it within 7. And it's perfect for drippers, it's perfect for systems. So I've always got an argument of I want like the lowest common denominator. So if there's a nervous little kid that walks into a shop one time and he's doing a school project, he's a bit nervous and he just wants to, have you got that Sumo? I've heard that's good. He gets it, he takes it home and he puts it into his drippers. And then it might block his drippers because the shop didn't know to mention that to him. Do you get what I mean? So I think with stuff like that, it's like, go for what will apply for the most. So I had one of the nutrient companies that he's just starting out and he's saying that we're all ripping everyone off because it's watered down. You only need 0.01 mil of mine. And I was like, right, but then if someone pours it for 3, like how I first started, you're going to burn your plants. You need to be accommodating across the board. And I do feel a lot of the times you can get sucked into like a hype range, or my mate said, as we all say in the industry, we've all heard that, the forums told me and all this, and ultimately get your shit dialed down first. Get photosynthesis, your plants feed from the light, get everything else dialed in first.
Yeah, it's like you say, it's have a holistic thing. Listen to other people, but by all means, do not follow every bit of advice, because every grower, you get 10 growers into a room and point them at a plant, you'll get 10 different fucking responses. Or maybe if you're lucky, if there's 2 really skilled people or experience, skills maybe not necessarily the right thing. If you've got enough experience, I know people that, bless them, and because they get to like 90% and never bother to push. Do you know what I mean? They're like, well, that's enough for me, and I'll let a few bits go out, but it's mine. I'm like, but you could. And they're like, nah, but they know everything else. They can point in a heartbeat everything else. They're just almost, I don't want to say lazy. They're lacking their motivation for themselves to push it over.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
They could do it at the flick of a switch, and they just, I know everything I need to change in my life. I'm just waiting for the right time.
Yeah, stubborn kind of people. Quite a few of them. Northerners tend to be, but yeah. So you get a couple of people would then maybe be able to identify the same thing. But yeah, generally keep it simple. Stupid is the expression.
That's it. The KISS principle.
Start with your small few basics. Run the same thing. Don't go after one cycle. It's shit. Run the same thing twice. Run it 3 times. I ran through minerals for a year before I had the confidence to then switch over to a very complex organics range, and then I went through a few, and I'm going to say the devil word here to you guys, but my preference is BioBiz. I highly rate BioBiz. I've got to a point I don't need. Yeah, I don't need the feed charts anymore. I don't need. I can eyeball everything. I can tell by I when I do run potentially allegedly a variance of cultivars, so they all have different requirements. So it's then hand fed and hand experience. You take a few minutes with each plant. You kind of look at its development, its progress.
That one needs that.
Yeah, and generally even you don't have to even clock what week it is. If you get yourself a little bud scope or something like that, once you get good to growing, or to how you grow is probably a better way of saying it, because I know some amazing growers on, again, another devil word, and there's a lot that comes out with them. But if you know how to use Athena properly, you can use Athena to get a good quality. I know a couple of guys that swear by that shit. And then every time they put something up, a million people are like, "Wow, devil, cardboard turfs," and he just kind of goes, "Well, actually, if you use this plus this," and he gets into it in a nerdy way. And if you want to learn, you can fucking learn. But then everyone else that's got their hype and go, "No, my way is better." And yeah, it's like everyone prefers the smell of their own farts. Do you know what I mean? You're gonna prefer your own fucking weed. With them kind of people, we're egoic fucking creatures. So yeah, you're always going to want to say yours is better, but you need that bit of humility to then get that next level up, and that next level up. I'll never be happy. I'm a decade in, and I'm going to be decades and decades and decades more. And never, every time you're like, I should have left it 2 more days, 3 more days. Oh, if I'd have just given it 5% more. What if I'd have done a prime flush like halfway through, and I'd have dropped that deficiency out, and then I could have pushed her in. You have always.
If you ever do hypothetically have that problem, by the way, of I could have gone a few more days, just use Dragon Force. You'll never have that problem. It finishes it. But we'll do the salesman pitch at the end.
Yeah, you get
because that's. But that's my whole thing of I always say I'm the world's shittiest salesman, because you will never hear me badmouth another range. You'll hear me talk about ranges on pricing. So there's one big boy out there that's similar product. They keep upping the prices, and ours is half the price, half the dose, 2 price rises ago. And you just think, so I'll always mention that. But in terms of actual ranges, NPK is NPK. Like I say, we all have different sources. We all have different recipes and ratios. People prefer certain ranges because they're more comprehensive. I've never ran a 3-part range other than Flora Trio back in the day, little 3-part with a bottle. So when I hear people in shops sort of like, "Oh, I want to get them off this onto you guys," but they're using such a thing and it's a 3-part, I'll be like, to be fair, I'll go for them customers because I'd rather get a 2-part over to a 2-part. If you're looking for something to swap over from that, I can recommend a few 3-part.
A lot of people who will be on lower, if you use that terminology, in the part ranges, are going to be more likely to stick with a low part range than go up. And if they do, they're then going to feel they're having more problems. Like I say, because I mean, BioBiz, I've had it in the past where I typically, when I've grown, allegedly, using 5 litre, going by 5 litres, full range 5 litres, and then you boom, 18 months to 2 years, depending on the cycle of how big a fucking size you're using. But then when I've run down to literally just having grow, bloom, and top max or whatever, you're still finishing the plant. The plant still is finishing through. Like you say, it might be a bit slow, and you have to kind of vary your doses. Like you can look at it 2 days after you've just given it 30 and go, "Oh, actually, I'm going to give that 25 mil."
Needs a bit more next time.
And then and you can figure it out. Like I said, from the weight, from the depth and richness of the color of the plant. Once you get really into it, you don't even have to necessarily know the names of each part of the plants here, guys. You don't have to really become academically educated. Just learn your craft, learn how to grow for you, because ultimately it should be your need you're satisfying first. If when you open your jar and smell your weed and you go, "Whoa, you've won." Fuck when anybody else
says. In it. We've always said literally when I first started, so for the first year, because my CV is 3 pages long and I've got loads of telesales jobs, I was on the phones doing, if anyone spoke to the chatbot for the first 2 years I was with the company, that was me. I just typed like a robot. And basically my whole thing was people getting in touch, and obviously a lot of the kids now, they know this shit a lot more than it's just my mate said. They are doing the research, so they're getting in touch saying, "I'm at this EC, it's Sagittarius rising, it's 3rd day of flower." Fucking, do you get what I mean? Wait, and then I'd kick that back, and it's sort of we'd have a discussion about how I can best advise this customer, and ultimately it comes back to read your plant. How's that look? And they'd send me pictures, and it's banging, bro. It's 10-10. It's fucking. There we go. what is your problem in it? And I think that is the thing. Like I always say, everyone had the best crops of their lives 10 years ago before no one knew about testing EC. Do you get what I mean? When everyone was just literally whacking it in, hoping for the best, getting a bit of runoff, make sure your pH is nice, and everyone was loving it. And now everyone seems to be having problems. Not everyone, obviously, people have got their things dialed in, but the amount of people where I speak to, we had a blazing row with a shop the other day. Like you say, Northerners, we're quite argumentative in our discussions. And I was arguing that he's had, obviously, like when I've been on the allotments and stuff like that, I've never had an EC problem. I've said to him, you've probably had more EC problems than me. No, I've only ever had 4 EC problems. I've never had one. I've never tested it. Do you know what I mean? I've probably had it. It's been undiagnosed, but the plants have always looked nice, so I've never had to.
I will admit, about 3 years in, I gave up pH and I gave up fucking EC. I gave up it became just purely eyeball. And like you said, if worst comes to it, it's like, I'm going to drop you into a 3-feed flush. Like for the next 3 feeds, I'm going to flush you because it's organic. Let it clean out. Let the plant, you maybe get a bit of fade, watch your edges go, and you're like, all right, no, she's starved now. I'll rebuild you up. Start again.
Because that's the thing as well, where you say, like, you're starting low anyway. So I've always, when people's, again, I'm the world's shitty salesman, I've always used A-B roots, swap out the roots for boosting flower, crack on, whack the PK in when you need. And it's when people say, oh, you've got the full range. And I've had shops say to me sort of like, oh, I don't put people onto yours because I want them on the full range. I'm like, why? Less is more with it. Literally, go for what you need and then do a couple runs with A and B and whack your PK in at the end. After that, try put the boost in. If you can, try put it all the way through veg. Notice how you don't get any stress in flower. Shit like that, like build it up as slow and as gradual as you need. It don't need to be sort of, oh yeah, the whole shebang. Like I say, you can just overcomplicate it. It's mad.
Yeah, I suppose to clarify or to add a caveat really to what I was saying before about other people, maybe take some advice. If people are willing to show you pictures of their crops and you can see their thing and it correlates to what they're saying, because like you said, yeah, everybody is the best grower. Everybody's the best breeder. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of ego sort of in this space. And yeah, so obviously, I mean, there's a huge part in just sort of the cannabis space, but how does that sort of work in hydroponics? Is it a similar sort of thing where you went up and go, no, my method, my product, my shop? Is that still a thing?
Crazy. I think it's probably bigger than I've ever seen. Obviously, Tesco used to have it with, oh, that should have been that price. But in this case, so even with the feed charts, as we were just saying there, so if me and you look at a feed chart and it says 1 to 2 mil, so I'll show that to a shop and me and the shop, they both know that means 1 mil. You'll show that to a customer, they look at it and go, oh, 2 mil, nice. I'll put 4 in and get double. And yeah, you're just going to store your shit. But obviously, they know better. They're big guy, I'm going to do this. And then obviously, I've made a few notes here, literally just on ego, because it is a massive thing. I've always said we need to do welcome mats saying, leave your ego at the door, because it's even more so now where people are doing research. Back in the day, people didn't want to Google shit. They'd come in and like ask you for the best pH to be in cocoa because they're never Googling that sort of stuff. Now it's like they'll spend 10 weeks Googling it. They'll come in finally, they've plucked up the courage to ask you a question. Then once you've answered the question, I've been doing this 16 years, mate. I know what I'm doing. You just work in a shop, and they get offended at like your audacity to have tried advising them. But then I always say it's like Fergie, the greatest manager that ever lived, ran the greatest team for so long, despite what everyone may think now. But you've never seen him on a pitch. Do you get what I mean? I'm not into football. I don't know if he was a good player. But that's the thing, like these people that have ran a shop for the past 20 years that have been advising people left, right and centre. I do say that a massive thing, again, on the ego is old shops where they're like old heads in the industry. They've been here from day and my way is the only way. If you go in and talk to them about crop steering, they look at, oh, that fad, it's been in, it's gone, it'll come up. People are getting the best yields of their life on it. Just because you get really good results with DWC because you've done it for the past 18 years doesn't mean it's for everyone. Do you get? So I think ego plays a big part into it that way. But then it's sort of like, ultimately, they do know what they're talking about. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon, it's the agriculture shit that got us out of the caves and all that. We can talk about mushrooms and that. But it was farming that got us into civilization. So ultimately, there's nothing new under the sun. So like you say, take from people, listen to people. If you've got a question, and this guy is ready to answer it to you, it might be the dumbest thing ever. I had a customer that came in one time, I don't know if he's still going or whatever, but he's arguing for ages that he's having heat stress. So he wants to buy this product for heat stress. And I've told him, let's look at your room, let's talk about this, but it could be something else. Sell me that product, bro. So I've sold it him. He's come back a couple of days later. He's bought another product, and I'm like, buy a fan, put your fan in. He's bought a fan. He's still getting heat stress. In the end, notepad and pen, said, right, let's draw your room. He's got all his plants here. He's got his lights here. He's got his outtake there, and his intake there. And I'm like, there we go. But you've not come in, like, there's too much ego there. He's not wanted to come in and actually say, like, look, mate, let's fucking, and he's just, I've seen this product, my mate said it'll be this, bam, bam, and ultimately you've made a microwave, you just, all your hair's up top of your light, you're cooking your shit. And I do think a big thing is, like, say, just leave your ego at the door at both sides of the counter. I think what's good with, like, a lot of the new shops coming in, and a lot of the old shops are willing to, but, like, they're adaptive. They're listening to the community. Obviously, there's community and industry. So the shops there where they're actively on Instagram and stuff like that. Obviously, it's always been an iffy one. Ultimately, you can't control what your followers do and who follows you. And my thing grows in Germany and stuff like that, but you've seen what they're running and you've seen what the market is going to go with. So now everyone wants Floraflex piping in. If you can get Floraflex piping in, mint, everyone's rooms will look sick, but Nutriculture piping is just as good. Nutriculture's gone now, but you can still get the fixtures and fittings. And it's...
Yeah, so it leads in very nicely to, I'm going to put two questions into one here, and you can kind of unpack this. So yeah, the ego and the bravado, and this kind of illusion of wanting others to see them as they believe that they're trying to get the other people to see them as, if you get what I'm saying, that classic ego game of, it's quite immature in a lot of ways, but most humans, myself included, we all fall into it in some way, in some guys. But do you think that leads to people taking other chances, as you say? Because generally the difference between organics and minerals, I would say, is quantity. I would say the quality that I have seen of organic growers in terms of the expression of the smells and flavors is fucking phenomenal. But the amount that you'll get, and you'll see mineral growers will come in and go, oh, look how piddly these are, look at this. But then when they get the end product, they're like, fuck. But it's a different thing. So do you think then it leads people to want to have bigger numbers, and then they might put PGRs, there might be an organic grower and then put in a load of fucking, I don't know, PK or something else or something on top, and then not telling you, like, do you think it leads to that behavior, and also people impoverishing themselves to buy like Cali packs, or that, like you said, the latest thing, and no, I want this light, so it's got this logo on, so when it's on my Instagram picture, I can tag that company. That kind of mentality.
Back in like 2018, 2017, 2018, when the tins were absolutely flooding everywhere. And it was like, obviously I say I'm off a broke little council estate, but it baffles me how all the kids are getting about in Montclair's and that, and like Canada Goose coats and shit. But there was kids that was buying 3-4 tins a week at £110 for 3.5 gram. And you just think that, like you say, that is you're gonna go broke. If not you, your mummy's gonna go broke. I get it all the time when I'm at these, like, we'll do an open day and I'll get people walk past, the big I am. Don't use that because we're the cheap, shitty one. We're not part of the cool kid club. Do you get what I mean? We've been exclusive for so long, not many have heard of us. And they'll say, oh, I'm with such a big boy. Here's what it is. You'll never get me off it. I'm an old school grower. They always tell me, if you're not an old school grower, if you was an old school grower, big white beard, you're going with Ionic. That's the original, what everyone grew with back in the day. You're growing with this one because you got put on it by the person who taught you how to grow. And now you're playing the big I am because I stick with that one even after a few price rises. And every time when you ask them what boost they're using in private on their own, they'll turn around and say, oh, well, I use that Sumo because it's half the price, half the dose. And like, I had one of the big growers who's won cannabis cups and stuff like that. And he said, oh, we need to chat one time because I've never heard like about your range. I want to go over the range and do a bit of training with him as I do. And then I seen him at the next event and he's turned around and said, oh, my mates use it, but they just didn't tell me because like we're a cheap brand. We've not changed our price in 11 years. So then I get other reps saying, oh, well, you must have been dear back in the day then. which is what it is. But we've not changed them in 11 years. So now we're a nice, cheap brand, and people don't like cheap brands, do they? And like I say,
we live in a luxury economy, isn't it? So it's the reason those kids were buying those tuna tins were not because the weed was good. Most of that was sealed in the estate. It was to then put on Instagram or Snapchat, look at me, and it was always opening, if you noticed. Yeah. Because people used to go, no, like, you've just put that in that tin. So people were like, no, the video then became about opening the can.
That's all you're paying. You're paying 100 quid. You've got 10-year-olds doing on YouTube.
100%. So it's all become about the facade of these things. So like, I don't front weed. Like, I don't judge cups, and I'm not involved in any of those. There's a lot of, that's all ego games to me. No offense to anybody. Love yous, and you're all lovely to me in private. But when you all get together and it's a big game of fucking pissing contest, my brain, I don't like it. I'm not going to give it the big I am, because I don't think I am. Do you know what I mean? If you want to sit and nerdily quietly talk about the thing, fuck yeah. But if you want to be like, no, but mine's better and mine, and yeah, yours +2. Yeah, mine was a foot bigger. Yeah, mine was wider. Yeah, mine. Do you know what I mean? That the people that they can never give you, and I'm not saying to like that I'm seeking validation from them, but I want to go, I've done this, and they go, oh, cool. And then they show me I think, and I go, oh, cool. And then we can both learn together. But it just feels this thing of like, oh, well, as you said before, that kid in the shop going, 10-10, bro, it's fire. And just absolute fire. But if it's fire, why are you in here asking for fucking help? It bothers me. Ego bothers me in all facades of life. It's with humility.
They'll have too much ego to measure the room.
Not even that, they won't want to, because they'll know that if there's something wrong there, it's their fault, so their ego has to deal with it. So it's the breakdown in the consciousness, whereas you learn in humility. When somebody goes, you're wrong, you should be able to have and go, okay, how? Sorry, can you explain? Do you know what I mean? And listen to the other person.
I've said it to Callie when I first started, and like I kept, obviously we're coming in meetings like, oh, we're hearing good things, it's all good, and like, can you tell me when you hear a complaint? Yeah, I like when you hear good things and all that. Everyone does. It's mint, but it's blowing smoke up my ass as well. It's like I want to hear where I'm bad, and I can adjust and change with that. It's like you say, you learn from your mistakes, isn't it?
It's the negative where we grow. It's pressure that makes diamonds, and I think it's this thing of and a conscious awareness of one's own actions and what one does in the world. Do you know what I mean? And if you are aware of this, the way, especially in our culture, in our space, in our industries, for all they're basically the same industry, that's how we express gratitude. That's how men communicate. We're a very broken subsect of the species, is the modern, especially northern millennial and younger man. We're just fucked. The technology destroyed our ability to communicate through the lockdowns and everything else. We've been splintered from each other. All of us that have been long-term smokers have been forced from the vast majority of society because of the way we smell, because, being ostracized, being effectively bullied. Somebody go, oh, he's stoned, and they do that. Oh, he's high. Whoa, those kind of stupid things that make them look like fucking morons.
Barbara posted it the other day on Instagram, and like the clip's gone viral, and he was like, someone sat down, obviously he's got his mate to at the part, and he sat down and he's like, oh mate, you're well hard, you aren't you? Like, everyone look at him, he's well hard, he's sat here stinking of weed, isn't he cool? And I've just put in the comments and then look, getting pure likes on the comment. Obviously, like, if there was a way that I could go for my chosen vice and it not smell and not put you guys out, I would do. But ultimately, it is mine. Do you get what I mean? When someone stood fucking chatting to me because I've walked past a pub or I'm stood having a pint after work and they're breathing air because they've been in there since 8 a.m, I'm not going to fucking, oh, what a dickhead stinker. It is what it is.
But it's as absurd. I mean, the British government have just tried to criminalise homelessness the smell of homeless people. They're obviously having to back down and adjust the bill, but they were literally trying to make it so that if I don't like the way you smell, and you don't have a home, we can fucking arrest you. But like, I'm sorry, have you ever been on the tube in summer? Fuck me running. It is like 35 degrees in BO. It's palatable, and everybody's got an arm in the air, and it's just this. Oh, sick. It's like fucking vinegar. It's horrid. Yeah, again, it comes back to the class thing. They can't criminalize that person not having a house and them being uncouth. So they have to come up with another way to attack them. And it's the same with cannabis. If fucking, I don't know, if cocaine smelled like weed, we would have a very different fucking reality. Because
100%.
cocaine is so popular, it's ever growing as a popular drug. I can actually see a point where it would overtake cannabis, and actually probably it already does. It's just that most people don't recognize themselves as using coke. What do you mean? I had a couple of bumps on Friday. Yes, I put in on a bag on Saturday. It was nothing. Yeah, we were on the session. I wasn't doing cocaine. I don't do cocaine. What, like a crackhead? No. I drink. I go on the session. Me and the boys get a couple of bags and some bevies. What are you talking about? I don't do drugs. These weed heads, these dirty fucking weed heads. Do you know what I mean? Is that if they could be identified by their smell? Do you remember fucking MCAT?
Yeah,
One of the legal highs, MCAT, smelled like cat piss. Users would take it, and as a byproduct of their smell, you could literally smell like cat urine. Do you know what I mean? And people were taking it because it was a legal alternative to MDMA. And MDMA was obviously having another boom because of the TV show Skins. So all of the youth and everybody, and yeah, we had some good times. We had some good pills as well back then. We had like the fucking Rolexes, the fucking Audis, the double cherries. What else did we have? The fucking what the hell was the bombs were pretty epic. I'm pretty sure there was some PCP and one set of them at one time. Like
that was just makes me think of training day.
It was mental. We did it. It took out like 30 people across Durham one night, and basically someone had got the pills in. Because we were big rave heads back then. It was the height of like the music was like Enter Shikari and shit like this. You know what I mean? Everything was hype and just like, let's pendulum for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? It was, let's take some pills and go fucking dance.
My high school days then.
Yeah. And so literally somebody rang in, bombs turned up, and we're all right. I'm not going to name any names for anybody to protect their own identities. But there was somebody whose mum house we used to session with. And so she'd session on there. We'd all drop. She dropped some with us that night. I was like, ooh. And then about 40 minutes, an hour later, before we were getting ready to go down into Durham, she starts screaming from upstairs on the toilet. I'm stuck on the toilet. My legs have broke. And she thought she was falling through the floor in the toilet because she was tripping. So what the fuck? And then people started to feel a bit funny, and we all kind of dispersed and went off to a few different venues and we're going to meet up. And then just people ended up scattered. And I just remember from that night, it's about 5 a.m, laying on, again, I'm trying not to name anybody, this guy's couch. And I was looking into the couch, and I was watching. I used to have on my old computer, like Windows 98 way back in the day, a Simpsons screensaver where Homer comes along and eats like the screen. And so it was like ice cream, and you go, and I was just tripping balls. I was just watching Homer just like eating these things, going back and forth across the couch. And then for like a week afterwards, people were messaging each other going, what the fuck happened to you? Where'd you go? And just everybody had a mental story of being like, well, I was out dancing and then the world just went mental.
Mad shit. I've never done pills. I fuck with my mushrooms in it. I always say I'm an entheogen guy, but then if someone passes me magic, then let's go. I'm a fucking wizard all of a sudden.
That window, that was toward the end of where we started to go into adulteration, where everybody and their mate went, oh, we can get a hydraulic press and make our own pills. Prior to that, we had a pretty solid Dutch connection. Because the Northeast, there's a ferry away to Amsterdam and to Rotterdam. You know, these are the central places of, you know, pill production and distribution. And so there was good quality high amphetamine. And yes, you would get obviously, MDMA with the higher amphetamine content, but we didn't have the ket adulteration. We didn't have the fucking PCP or any of these other minor elements that started to get mixed into them. We started getting like speckled pills for a while, which would have like literally brown heroin in it, like cheap fucking heroin in it, and we put it in downers to calm a lot of the synthetic drugs that they were putting in for Rushy, because they were. It same happened with LSD for a while. Was it 1P LSD or no? What was the other one? There was another formulation of acid that went around for a while. It was 24 hours. It was a minimum 24 hours. And it just fucks with you. I mean, anybody that's taken acid knows around hour 5 or 6, your brain says that thing.
Yeah, you're ready for it done.
This is forever. And you're like, no, it's not. No, it's not. And you just kind of go through it. But yeah, if you get 24 hours, like, and I'd see it at festivals, like people would wake up like the next day and be like, no, I'm still fucked. And be like, well, that's not acid then. If acid turns off, you go to sleep. Yeah, you may wake up and be disorientated and have to deal with your consciousness. But in terms of the tripping experience, fuck, it's gone. So, but they became that consequence. So it's interesting. Like I said, if we could get good quality MDMA, I mean, I'm keeping one eye on Australia. My Australian audience, do give me a fucking comment below if you know anything more about this. Obviously, they're moving to prescribe MDMA as a psychiatric drug. I don't know on how they're going to do it. Is it going to be the California model, like the love drug experiments, where you go to a male and female therapy and you take it into supervised things? But I can see eventually that leading to, well, why the hell couldn't we not? We need to get back to that, frankly, as far as I can see. And a lot of the venues accommodated us. We were the second wave sort of rave generation that I grew up in, that I'm subscribing there, of that pill renaissance. And I think we need a third wave. We need a renaissance in music. Look at what, is it Shambhala? No, who was it? One of the music festivals this year has announced no headliners. I think it was Shambhala. They've gone, no, fuck it. We're not going to spend a giant amount of our budget on one fucking band for 1 fucking hour for them to come along and do the minimum amount of work. We're going to get 350 belter acts and we're going to really promote it. So I think there is this thing. I mean, we've seen crackdowns on free parties, which was another community and scene that I have such love for and respect for and appreciation for being able to grow up in and around. But that's been decimated. Squatting culture and everything, for the free party scene and all of that, that is basically the modern hippie. Do you know what I mean? And that's been so overly attacked and they've become so...
That's what always gets me when I listen to, like, my mum fucking, when she was obviously, like, on the estate young, obviously, like you say, she was like that first generation fucking too young to be in hacienda, so like you say, just free parties, and they'd have fucking 4 gaffs and you've just smashed through. So it's just one bit, like the loft is just a party gat and shit like that, like wiring the speakers all the way down to the valley and all that sort of shit. And it is like, it's all done now, isn't it?
Yeah, regardless of people go, oh, the drugs, park the drugs for a second. Or that you don't know. The reason people are taking the drugs is as a social lubricant, as a means by which for them to step outside of themselves to actually connect with other human beings. There's a reason people pay the money that they do to go to fucking festival. I'm actually wearing it. I didn't even realize I'm wearing a Boomtown t-shirt. Love Boomtown. Nice. I went to Boomtown 3 through 9, I think, something like that. And I'm not being like, oh, I went before, but no, that's not what I'm saying. It got too much. I couldn't take it because of the size. It got too big. It got too big. And instead of it being about, because it was bangers, it was artists that if you knew, you were like, oh my God. But it wasn't the commercial names. And then when they started bringing the commercial names and they moved fucking the Lion's Den. Once they moved Lion's Den, things got bad. Like when we saw Cypress Hill in the Bowl that year, it was just like, turn the fucker up, man. Like, I'm again arguing over this shit here, but my point is it being...
I know all about events changing over time, though.
Yeah, so it's now become, that's your holiday. You need to save thousands of pounds to go to a fucking festival. What I see this year on the Boomtown Forum, £100 shower pass for a weekend. £100 to have a fucking shower.
Use the showers.
The last one I went to was fucking £5. £5, you go in, you took a quality shit. You got a closed room. They washed it down. It was brand new, fresh with your own little mirror and sink. You went in there. You hotbox it with a fat joint, and then you leave and you're done. You clean. You go into the fucking shower. You get beautifully clean, and you walk up for fucking £5. Yeah, like, and then what about like £100
quid for a weekend?
How many showers and that? Yeah, exactly. And you could go like people would be queuing for miles. People like, no, I'm going to get up and take 5 a.m. shower, or I'm going to go to. You can get good to it and you can work around it, but they've now monetized every aspect of every festival. And it's lost. It's lost. I mean, look at Burning Man. For all it's not a festival. That is emblematic of what's happened over the years of its intention.
That's the one where you have to be on a certain, like, you have to get an invite to get a ticket and all that, don't you? Like,
you basically have to
talk about it.
Get basically approved for it. Yeah, it's such a weird, and you've got to be into the right crowds, and it's such a classist fucking bullshit show anyway. But to go back to my earlier point, there are some festivals trying to do this. You've got people like Sasha Lord trying to, in Manchester, trying to revitalize the nightlife because we need this. But the Tories and that are going, well, no, but then they'll just take drugs. And it's like, well, then change the fucking drug laws. It doesn't, we want to be with each other. Being with each other makes everything better.
The drugs as well. It's not like you'll take drugs and, it makes me want to talk. You can't shut the fuck up. It literally makes it like unavoidable, isn't it? It makes you shit.
Yeah, you get out of your own way. And I've seen it with people, you know what I mean? I've had mates that were fucking quite racist, quite bigoted people, and then going to like the free party and rave scene, and then they're dancing with people that, like. But I'm not going to name the kid or the anecdote I'm thinking of, but this huge Ghanaian guy that we ended up sitting with till the fucking sun rose the next day. They were just sort of raving together, bumped into each other, and I'm like, fucking hell. He was a small dude. This guy was giant. I'm like, he's somewhat bad. And he was just off his tits and he's like, sort of fist bump, and then they ended up fucking cuddling, and then they were fucking like dancing, fucking, and it was just like, that's what it's like unifier. It allows us to step beyond that. It's so hard to be on ecstasy and fucking get in a conflict with somebody.
That's it.
Do you know what I mean?
I was just saying, life, it's nice to be nice, innit? And that's the thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes if you've got that sort of shit in you as well.
But that's what MDMA does. It makes you feel better the nicer you are. It's a weird part when you're like, and you're rushing.
I get rewarded.
You're rushing, and somebody's like, I need water, and you're like, and you rush and you get them a glass of water, and you give them the glass of water, and you're like, and they're like, thank you, and, and they say thank you, and, and you feel rushing. I did something good. Literally, it reinstills those kind of things, and like I said, you can talk what is it called in human 24-hour party people? Is it talking cod shit? You can just chat shit. And yes, some of it majority of it is not necessarily meaningful, but you can have meaningful connections and conversations. You can speak of, as I spent a lot of my time doing, speaking out my trauma to people. Do you know what I mean? In a space where they were not just capable of receiving it and bypassing the awkwardness. You could say something horrible and soul destroying, and the other person, rather than being like, oh, I feel uncomfortable, I don't know how to deal with this, or what, they could empathetically respond.
They've got their story as well.
Exactly. They would help you heal, then they would give your story, then you'd help them heal. And it's a beautiful substance, but I worry about its intention when it's locked into psychiatry or into the medical field, that it's going to miss the mysterious points of it. It's going to miss, like I said, we used to do a thing, and I miss our community. We used to have an end of summer beach party up in Almouth, up near the border of Scotland. We would go up at the end of summer every year, every August, sometimes into September, depending on the weather. And about fucking 30 of us would have tents on the beach and a big sound system. Huge fire. And we'd have
side of the country, that, innit?
Yeah, and you have a rave and you'd watch the sunrise over the water. Do you know what I mean? And that would be like, that's the end of summer. And then everyone gets into, because you know what northern winters are like. Everyone there's nothing to really do, especially as the venues closed and everything else. So I want to see, and this is where I think cannabis can step into this. If we can get the clubs, the coffee shops, the venues, the spaces, the conversation then becomes so much easier to go, well, why haven't we got a drug positive music venue? Because this is what
That's
we had.
What I loved about this year's Hyde Park. Again, sorry to interrupt, but this year's Hyde Park, it was I think they've had no arrests whatsoever. And it's like, I went there last year and there was only one or two people getting pulled out of the crowd for having bloody crackers or like fucking had a few beers and did get rowdy. But it's the more that we can do that sort of thing, and like we were saying the other day, sort of, you'd get this stereotypical stand next to the Fed and get a picture with him smoking a joint. And I just literally, where in past years you see him get a bit rowdy, they'd literally just a group of them all turned around and walked away from this one kid trying to get a picture. And it's like, you can see that they are getting a bit more relaxed too. If we've got a field full of potheads, it's not really going to get rowdy.
It comes down to numbers. The police are very, for all, I'm quite anti-police, really. I think that they do need to exist for certain things, definitely. I think they should be investing in a hell of a lot more financial crimes and fraud. Although, according to the Tory government, fraud technically isn't fucking a crime. So
the only financial crime I can see them looking at is fucking our industry.
Well, exactly that. And it's not about the money. For all, they want to seize the assets under pocket and everything else, and they get that opportunity to do so, and they can auction shit off as they do. Several hydro shops, not going to name you either, guys, were involved in sort of retail. So they buy stuff back from fucking cops or work with them to help auction off stuff that is then seized from cops. But yeah, it's become such a fucked up system of financial incentives. So if they're then chasing the money of that, or told to chase the money of that, the consequence of that, like we said, is that who are the people that they're targeting? Yes, they grab the big gangs and the big players and whatever, but all they're ever grabbing there is gardeners. Frankly, they're only ever grabbing low-level people. Who paid for that shit? Who's actually? And we see it all the time. If like, we could allege that, the people that actually own those properties know about this shit. What you mean? You knew you have a security firm on this building, yet this person was able to break in, wire the electric, get all of this equipment into there, and nobody else was involved. It's
speaking to someone the other day that said it, like they sort of fucking landlord got a knock on, or one of their mates got a knock on the door when the police have been there. The landlord's gone over and said, "Oh yeah, he's in that property, and that property as well." And it's like, but you've not faced, so this landlord's obviously well off to have that many properties, but you think you've known about it and it's just moved on. And like I say, I'm not really for police. I'm not saying a landlord should get nicked, but it's just like a lot of people are in the know for you to have done, like you say, a big fucking operation, innit?
And that shows that again, it's not, they're never interested in actually disrupting and breaking the cannabis supply. Far from it. Otherwise, hydro shops wouldn't have been essential businesses. It's that's
Look
fucking.
at all the stuff that happened just before Christmas. It pays for their Christmas dip.
It's like,
I don't know.
they know that
the finances, but
a population consuming cannabis, if every cannabis consumer suddenly couldn't consume cannabis, what do most of us do? What would most of us do? We'd end up back on drink or something like that. There would be something, because there's something for the chronic. I don't mean chronic as in like a negative or contentious term here. Well, yeah, there's something. You're either self-medicating for like mental health or whatever, or there's some sort of physical thing, or it's a relaxant, or it's whatever your habitual use or whatever the thing. If that suddenly was lost to you, you would seek to replace it with something else in some way. And whatever that is would be far more detrimental to you as an individual and the wider society. Because if 100%. Suddenly, and so this is what I mean, I feel like the more they trip over things or they take out rivals, frankly, they need a robust market to exist. But like I said, it's about class moving. So I think this is why I personally believe they're involved in quite a few of these large operations, because then they take the majority of the money. Yeah, the farmer might get his money, but he's going to send that back to fucking Vietnam, or he's going to send that back to Albania or wherever. Do you know what I mean? It's not then going to stay in that community where he suddenly becomes a middle class, upstanding member of society. And so then when they come into the estates, kind of where I'm envisioning you live around where I live around here, whether they recognize it or not, it's about maintaining that class divide. It's stopping it's stopping little Dave going, you know what, I'm going to spend 4 years. All right, 4 years if I get a 2-bedroom house and I live in this room and I grow in these and I sell within 4 years I can have a mortgage. That's what I know a lot of people that are working like that are growing to pay a mortgage. They're not trying to get the fancy car or whatever. They're trying to get some security. Yeah, and on that they're paying tax. On that, they're paying more into that system than any of these other legitimate entities. This is the frustrating thing about it, is they wonder why the world is collapsing. It's because a lot of people take drugs. It's like 10 billion, I think, they spend cumulatively on like health and prohibition of cannabis here in the drugs in the UK. Like the amount of money that they invest, and it's not doing anything to anybody. So what happens? Somebody gets caught and goes in a room, goes, "Oh yeah, no, drugs are bad. I shouldn't. I'm sorry," and then walks out there and sparks a joint.
Yeah.
We have no respect for you because you're wrong.
It's like it's just creating a bigger divide on it as well. So it's like I've had a mate there that said that she can only smoke it in Amsterdam because the stuff over here is sprayed with toxic stuff that makes you paranoid. And I'm like, it's not that you're scared of police. That's all it is. And it's like,
you might have to
ultimately in doing all this prohibition shit, even with where they want to do and I always say, look, to just legalize it. It's literally like fucking, basically, if we go for their guideline, they want us to do everything their way. You were saying it the other day with Dan Hare, sort of thing of like, we can do it, but if we're doing it in their sort of way. So you've just seen it with Thailand, like obviously they've allowed everyone to start growing, and then all the Americans have come over, open dispensaries, importing, selling, and they've just said, oh no, we're dialing it back to medical now. So if you've got the right licenses, it's never going to be fully open, do what you're doing, and then we'll just give you more freedom. Legalization is just going to be more restrictive and more regulation to us, isn't it? But I can't remember where we were saying with that, because like you say, I've cut out a little bit.
It's all right. I'd just say to clarify, I think the anecdote that you said for my audience that might not have heard was that Lewis has got a friend that says that they can only consume cannabis when they're in Amsterdam because they believe that the stuff over here is sprayed because it makes them paranoid. And the point that he was making there is that perhaps it's the prohibition that's making her paranoid, that she feels safe in Amsterdam and unsafe here in the UK, which is a common feature I've got. Even I'm not going to grass this up, even though I've only got a few family members, but one of my family members the same. It's like no consume in the UK wouldn't want to ever, but the times they've ended up in Amsterdam, they're like, oh well, when in Rome.
Boris Johnson even said it, didn't he, about his next door neighbour before he was prime minister and all that. It's like, my next door neighbour smokes it, I smell it at nights, and if they're doing what they're doing in their own privacy,
I want to see if I can do
just sitting. It's mad, and that's the thing. I think ultimately, in all the prohibition sort of thing, we're just driving all the profits, as they did in America with bootlegging and all that, into the hands of, like you say, the criminals, the organised gangs. When I was in
Yeah.
school and when I was a kid buying smoke, I was buying it off my mate's dad, and it was all nice and it was all cool. And everyone said, "Oh, you're funding organised crime." Bullshit.
Mm.
Now, the amount of like some of the prices you hear people getting their big weight for, ultimately that trickle down economy, like it is going to the big boys that are just bringing people over and doing fucking 200 boxes at a time. And
Yeah.
it is bad in like the long term. And obviously you don't want it to be that. Whereas ultimately, if it was the turnaround and just, because that's the thing that breaks me out as well. Yeah, we've got it legal in the UK now. It is legal. Cool. Since 2018, it's legal on prescription within their paradigm. I've spoke to all these different companies at all these different events, and every single one of them shies away when I mention what's your policy on grow your own. None of them want it to be in the hands of us. They all still want to push this paradigm of this is harmful skunk. I've had these chads pull me at one of these events when I've been sort of skinning up, and they've said, "Oh, is that it's not been tested for the THC content? It could be dangerous." And I've sort of given her a dressing down on terpene profiles and explained that you don't really know what you're talking about. This, that, the hemp that you see in bloody, the botanicals in Holland and Barrett, it's all cannabis sativa. And ultimately, like, so there's just divide all the way along it. So, like, my mate now, who is only smoking it in Amsterdam, she's probably going to go and get a prescription because that stuff, it's regulated and it won't cause anxiety. When actually,
Yeah.
she's just gone for something that's 13% THC that's packed full of citronol and limonene that's going to cause her anxiety.
She might even end up getting something from the clinic that then causes that. It's the horses for courses thing. And like you said, there's such a fracturing of education for whatever persuasion you're involved in. If I'm a CBD company, oh, hemp, THC bad, hemp. If medical, it's like street weed, skunk. Do you know what I mean? You create the other and the enemy. Not all the good things you've ever heard, that's us. All the bad things, that's not us. You know, the good thing you're thinking? Yeah, we do that. It's a bullshit breakdown of it. I mean,
absolutely baffled my mind when on your Kevin Jones episode when he said like the guidelines for these guys' prescriptions and all the policies they've put in place came from 40 samples given to the Home Office by the Met Police. Mm-hmm. So they've took our harmful stuff. Someone's probably spent a night in a blue mattress over what they've then built the guidelines on.
Entirely.
So
and
this is harmful.
This is the thing of it. History isn't over or stationary. This is still happening. They're still stealing our weed. They're still raiding us to have access to these things to make patented medications that will make people billionaires. This is what the whole game is about, is control. This is why, I mean, I had, this might be out of order for it. No, obviously you guys will have seen last week's episode by the time this comes out. It's just I haven't released either yet, obviously because we're recording this one. But I spoke of that with the difference between sort of polyplids and triplids with the previous guest of what they're
not even give me a sample of it. I'm fuming.
I can send you an early link. And we were talking about that. Basically, it's stabilizing to try and get cannabis that then won't create seed. It'll still clone, but it won't create seed. And then so it feels like they're moving towards this thing of, like, in my opinion, like the Terminator project that Monsanto were working towards, single cycle crops. So you can't you can't do cultures, you can't do fucking cloning or anything.
You have to buy our seeds each year.
Every time. Yeah. And again, if you're a capitalist and operating as a capitalist, why would you not want that? Why would you not seek to want that? You know, I literally, I had a seed owner of the UK's largest seed company on last week, and he mentioned it himself. He's like, look, there has to be a cap on the pricing of seeds when you know how much it costs to produce a seed. Yeah, the R&D might be there, but when you know how many seeds are produced on a plant and
it just can be, it's too easy for it to become a monopoly, isn't it? And I think that entirely, talking about patents and all that, I had a mad little conspiracy that I just cooked up in my head because, as everyone can probably tell, I'm conspiratorial. But all that hops latent viroid that started kicking around last year. Mm-hmm. So everyone was just buying these Cali strains, they're paying ridiculous amounts for cuts brought over and all that. And all of them are like fucking, then they're breeding them and then the seeds have got it in. Like, either way, this hops is all coming over, but from America. And then when you look at all that Hawthorne are doing with CRISPR and all the different genome modifications, and now for the first time, cannabis is getting like variants of a hops virus. And it's just weird. But then if you think like what they did in India, where it was like you say, they sort of bought all the seeds off everyone, give you all our crops, and then, oh, fucking hell, you just have to buy them off us. And it's like if they end up doing that, where ultimately it's, oh, well, we've got 24 strains that are deemed capital M medical cannabis. And these are the ones that are safe. So you can home grow, but you have to buy them off us. You can only use because that's the thing as well, where it's sort of like
we're already
legalization. Is it just going to lead to more regulation in the shops? Are you not going to be able to get anything without a license?
Exactly. This is what we're looking at, with Schedule 3 sort of in the States of pharmaceutical products, and then precursors for sort of pharmaceutical products. I mean, Jesus Christ, anybody that's seen Breaking Bad, you can have a bit of an idea of how difficult it is to get hold of things that aren't drugs but can potentially be made into drugs. Then think of what would happen to the hydro industry if then people would assume that this could be used to make a pharmaceutical regulated medication, ergo they shouldn't be allowed access to this without a wholesaler license or a background check or some sort of enhanced means of access. Yeah, exactly. Isn't it in the explosives fucking category or some shit like that?
Yeah. So now for a wholesaler to sell it to the shop, the wholesaler and the shop both have to have an explosive license. And then for the shop to sell it to a customer and the shop both have to have it. But it's only on percentages like phosphoric acid. So now the companies have brought out one that's lower than 20. So you can still get it. And obviously you can use a lot more of it, because that old one, it was like you'd drop a needle in it and then just let it drop into your tank. But yeah, like you say, that's literally because it's a precursor to it. So ultimately, if it was, because the amount of chili growers, the amount of actual like old days that get their fucking nephews and nieces and the grandkids multi-packs for Christmas and stuff like that. If suddenly they're like, all right, hydro shops, you can do this. It is legal now, but bam, you've got to have a license to purchase.
What will happen is the companies, the biggest players, will then get together and help collude to create rules that means that they are the ones that are allowed on the shelf and their competitors can't, and their competitors would have to spend a great deal of money getting up to regulations to be able to be available to be on the shelf. It's it's the ironic thing of it's neoliberal capitalism 101, but it's also anti-capitalist, as in it defeats the market. There's a lot of this that we see within the shops, and
that's what gets me with capitalism now. It's not, it's like you always say, it's cronyism. It's literally like we'll choose 5 companies and they get everything. True capitalism, in my eyes, I always say it with like us getting rid of exclusivity. Everyone should be able to trade. In the marketplace, it should be open to all. It should be a fair fucking go at it. Everyone can bid on the same sort of stuff. Not, he can bid, but I've told him about the bid a week earlier and I've told him if he starts at 3, he's got it. And that's how the world seems to work at the moment, is like you say, sort of who you know and who you can hook up at the same time.
I think there's a mentality of the world is going to end, everything's going to turn to shit, and nobody knows how quick it's going to happen, but it's going to fucking happen, and get what the hell you can, and the ends justify the means.
Let's nice ourselves up.
And that's what it feels like. And then I feel so revulsed by this, and like literally like a magnet sort of like pushed away from this ever growing egoic mentality. Yeah, literally, it's no. I'm thinking, okay, how can I get less? I want to live with less. If you're going to say my price to live keeps going up, I'm going to try and live for less. Do you know what I mean? That's my mentality. It's not
the WF.
What, sorry?
When they started saying you'll own nothing and be happy. Like fucking mint, bring it on. I'll run into it now.
Exactly. It's basically, Klaus Schwab, I guess, is the modern Plato in that sense. There's a Plato quote, which is, he is content as to requires least. So it is entirely that. You look at Zen Buddhism. Look at the Hinduist kind of what the hell do you call it? Theology? Is it theology? I don't know. I don't know the right language to describe it. But yeah, Buddhism and Hinduism, and there's a lot of things. It's about. And I suppose in the early Christian tradition as well, the whole thing of giving and everything like that was supposed to be this thing of like you're deburdening yourself of the thing that you then have is, the Buddha speaks of desire is the enemy of something or other. I can't read the quote in my head.
Happiness sounds about right.
Something like that. Yeah, it's basically everything that causes you misery in life is because of your desire and attachment to it. Do you know what I mean? Obviously there's certain things like you need water, you need nutrition, but you don't need to eat 6,000 calories a day. Do you know what I mean? So it's about finding that level.
There is a form of gluttony in it to an extent. It's everything in moderation.
But in that, you can then find, I think, the space for growth. If every time something new comes up or more comes up, we just consume it, there isn't that opportunity to recognize that the growth that we previously have had. I mean, for all everything stagnating around us, our economy is looking pretty dire right now, and our future prospects are not looking much better. And I can't see how the same, well, I'm going to say it, these cunts that have crashed our economy, these monopolistic, conglomerating, fucking cronyistic, privately educated, rich middle class and upper class fucking dickheads have all got together for frankly the past 2 decades. Because I mean, Brown was set up to fail under Blair. New Labour was not much fucking better. For all I do take some flack under it, I think the economic policies and the socialist policies of Brown, he was the closest to trying to actually help the people and hold some system to account. Granted, he fucked up cannabis with fucking Jackie Smith and all of that shit, and like I said, there's a lot I disagree with. Basically, since the early 70s, 60s, 70s, man, this country has been following the same trajectory of this thing of a small group of cabal of people find the thing and extract the most money from it and fuck the consequences. We've crashed industry in this country. We've destroyed community. Like I said, but the average high street is fucked, except if you've got like Tunbridge Wells or Oxford or Cambridge. If you go to where they live and their stuff is still doing well. And it's all luxury goods, like I said. It's all fancy fucking
when you see things on Instagram, like the 10 poorest cities and stuff like that, and every single one of them will be up north.
Wait, this is this is out of date, so I need to check this, but it was valid from up to 2016, sorry. 9 of the 10 poorest countries at the time of Northern Europe were in the UK. Yeah. 9 of 10, sorry, of cities in the country, in the countries of the EU economic zone. And it was just like, what? But yet you look, I mean, Durham.
We're a superpower.
We have told this anecdote before. Just there's a fucking 5-star golf course and spa and that, just like good stone throw away from here. And there's a real old railway track that shows, it symbolizes the death of industry. On the left side of that, houses selling for £60,000, 2-bedroom houses that haven't been modernized in fucking decades. Do you know what I mean? And the families, there's some very proud and decent people there, but their economic situation is just never going to improve. Their kids are never going to improve.
The same on my estate. They've just built up like, but anytime I go back now, dog fields are fucking whole housing estates.
But then on the other side of that track, dude, there is a fucking thing that I saw in the Northern Echo the other day, and they're like, ooh, and it was basically an advert to sell this house. And I think it was like £3.5 million. And it was like 10 bedrooms, 7 fucking bathroom. It was like 3-story and it had like a outside entertainment area and it backed onto the golf course. And this is in a housing estate of 10 houses of mansions. It's just a mansion housing estate. And then it's literally the old dead railway. And then
this the other side of the tracks, isn't it?
Literally. And it's mental. So they're driving through with their Bentleys and Ferraris and shit. And now the economics have got so fucked and they're still fucking us. You're seeing people in Range Rovers going to charity shops. And they're just like, getting a bargain. You've got middle-class housewives going to charity shops, paying £1 for something and selling it for 50 quid on Etsy. And again, it's all they're doing is just impoverishing the most impoverished or everything for the past 50 years.
It's like there's a disconnect.
To the smallest people. Well, yeah, because in their head, of course the economy is doing well.
People in it.
Well,
they genuinely don't see that as like, oh, these are just lower people. They see it as like, nah, they don't really matter. There was a guy who used to come in Tesco for the yellow stick of bread, and he literally could pull up, like say in his Range Rover, he'd get a fucking full trolley of bread. We can't stop him, it is what it is. And I used to like fucking try and kick off with him where I could and just sort of say like, obviously there's kids actually starving, and like my mum's fucking gone nights when she's not had tea because we've had tea, and then obviously at the scraps it turns out she's hungry now. Do you get what I mean? And it turns out he's feeding them to his horses. He's genuinely, he'd like laugh it off like it's banter and all, and you just don't. The kids off the estate and that, the mum's off the estate, they're too proud to come in and get the yellow stickers.
Yeah, but it's the human condition, though, in the same way that I struggle to empathise with people like that. Everyone has struggles, obviously. I spoke of it with Craig Campbell the other week and said that, look, they're just victims in Ferraris. And again, I know that might hit some people's ears very weird, is we're all victims of the same economic system, and they're suffering a loneliness and a disconnect. And there's if you look at the statistics, the richer you are, generally, the more you drink. And I think that is to dampen and drown your conscience. because everybody knows the truth of economics. Money is finite, shit is finite, stuff is finite. You have all the stuff, exactly that. If you've got $1 billion in assets and in the bank, there's 1 million people that are fucking, exactly. And that's what, no, I worked hard for this. Like, did you see recently fucking, which Nepo baby was it? I think it was Willow Smith, I think came on. My success has nothing to do with my family. It's like, fuck you. Do you think anybody would have ever ever looked at you, given a shit about you? You would just be an endless face in an ocean.
Kylie Jenner, she won Self-Made Businesswoman of the Year and all that. It's self-made. I know some birds on the estate doing aesthetics and that absolutely 10/10 full on business practices and that, but how far can you get with it? Do you get what I mean? But because she's Kim Kardashian's sister, Robert Kardashian's daughter, come on, mate.
But yeah,
it's mad.
And that mentality is, I think, what we're seeing, like I said, in the cannabis space. Now, they're going to, if anyone's to be in there, it should be us. We have everything else. I mean, look at journalism in the UK. It's like 80%, I think around 80% are privately educated, middle class. I say, how then can they hold to account their mates? Oh my God! In the chambers, you said something horrible. You know, it used to be the working class profession. We did that to hold them accountable.
Exactly, and then that
money corrupts
out, and you're fucking.
This is why we need diffused systems. If we can diffuse cannabis, where everyone that can grow, wants to grow, does grow, then the companies can't get as big and as powerful and then buy up their rivals, and we'll end up with the 5 companies. That idea of that market capture and this neoliberalistic model. I mean, guys, I know it feels like it's been forever, but it only started in the 80s. We didn't always live like this. This is the new fucking phenomenon of shareholders determining the direction of businesses. Do you know what I mean? It used to be that it was about the service and product for the consumer. If the consumer didn't want your product, guess what? You didn't make the fucking product. Whereas now they can use marketing and advertising to manipulate you into buying anything. It's just the con men. Do you know what I mean? And that's what I feel is happening with this prescription cannabis or anybody in any of these spaces right now, is it's who can act the coolest, who's, you know, fucking can have that bravado and that cockiness and that confidence to other people going, oh, yeah, he's making money, then I could make money. And that's all it is. All any of us are seeking is security.
As well with, like, in this cannabis space as well, it's sort of just because obviously we've just spent years as just fucking idiot potheads, just smoking and fucking doing what we do. These now that have actually discovered that cannabis can cure cancer, and like they really understand the medical properties of it, like they need to run with it. Obviously, they should be in the space, and they are, like you say, they're walking in because we are fucking hippies at heart. Whether you're a business-minded fucking grower or whatever, you're still a hippie at heart. We're not asked about, like, say, the ego. If we go to events, we'll sit in a corner quiet and chat to our mates about it. But these people who come in with the ego of, well, I work for a pharmaceutical company, of course I'm going to come in like this. And like, I've just discovered this mad new benefit of it. When meanwhile, we've been talking about the benefits of it because it's been passed down to fucking, I've got a guy that I chat to in Salford that literally used to fucking smuggle hash all around India and all this shit. And it's like the shit that he tells me. And it's like, it's passed down through generations. Do you get what I mean? These are now just discovering it and sort of trying to take it over.
Yeah, this is literally what it is. It's here's an analogy. It makes sense in my head, but as I try and verbalize it, it might fall apart. We are all but grains of sand on the beach of the industry. The water has touched some of us a lot earlier than others, yet some of these grains of sand are acting as if they brought the water. They are the reason it is wet. And the wet is like the acceptance in the industry and the money, the beach being the cannabis legacy culture and industry and space, and us all being the elements of it. There's none of us are more than a grain of sand, no matter how great any of us have worked or how hard or how much we've achieved.
All contributing.
It is, the vast majority. Yeah, and if you were to take away the nameless, those who we will never know, whose stories will never be told. It doesn't matter how many Jack Herrers in the world. It doesn't matter how many Eddie Leps. It doesn't matter how many Dennis Perrons, any fucking Howard Markses, any fucking Simpas, Lewises, whatever. None of that would matter without what they brought to the table. And if we have this collective humility, I keep saying this thing of parlay in the old pirate sense. Let's come together and see what the fuck we can do. Because if you think you're making money now, wait till we actually could work together. And if you bring us up and we then have money to spend in your industry, because right now, all they're doing is look at the biggest demographics in the world, over 55s. They're just selling to their old boomer mates. The youth are not buying it. The youth are buying the shit coming out of back doors and all these other underground brands and these international drug dealers that are becoming brands and whatever else. And like, that needs accepting, but not put into their system. We need separate routes. There should be that.
That's it.
No, I've
That's
never
what
smoked. I've never smoked cannabis. This is a don't smoke cannabis conference. Yeah, you have yours. Let us have our we're fucking cannabis, and everyone's giving away free joints and throwing weed in the air, and it's hyper. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and then everything in between, because that's what this.
Your analogy the other day.
We are the industry, and this is the industry. You know.
Yeah, I love the way you put it the other day about like on the bus or on the train, and it's like you're on to the last stop. Like it needs to be legal for all. It needs to be the old version of legal, where we can all crack the fuck on, not where, like you said, sort of the medical guys. Yeah, buzzing now. It's been legal since 2018. Jump off it, and their battle's done. And then you get guys got it in Holland and Barrett, and there's big weed leaves all over the windows. Mint, views get off now, where it's fucking medical. It's still putting out radar. It's not completely across the board, just okay. So until it is, can't really sit back and just sort of like you say, there's cause for yeah, we're done. We're cool with, like, you've got your prescription and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm in the process of getting mine and stuff like that, because it is ultimately, we do need to work within their paradigm. But at the same breath, we can't just go along with like, oh yeah, you do know a lot more about it than us. Because then I've seen like Instagrams where they've been approached by like proper like facilities and stuff like that, and they've turned around and refused it because now I don't accept what you stand for and stuff like that. I know I've probably closed a few doors when I've been at events and stuff, because I will say point blank, nah, I don't like what you stand for. And ultimately, it's like, how much standing your ground can you do when it's, you need to, because we've got, like you say, I'm still on, this is the hill I'm going to die on until it's done fully. I'm still going to be fucking with it, but it is an hard one because everyone does seem to be getting their way other than us, innit?
Well, and it's the lack of recognition that they're getting everything they've got because of us. They only know it's medical because a bunch of dudes decided, now I'm going to grow it and give it to my kid to help out.
That's it. If you had their way, and it was legal back then, it was banned and every plant was burnt and everything. Be done now. You won't have this magic research that you found. Like you say, the only RSO, it's Rick Simpson. It was one guy growing it in a fucking garden, going mad. Do you get what I mean? It wasn't one of you guys in your white coats figuring it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, but they've obviously had and done a lot of research on this. I'm not going to get too much into the cancer conspiracy because that's a whole kettle of fucking fish. But
cancer research, Race for Life.
That's basically what I mean about it being a monetary system that incentivizes the longevity of the charity, not the demise of cancer. But yeah, it's a Rick Simpson. He obviously perfected a very simple home method for extraction. And RSO, obviously, there's a lot of people mix it up in the sense of RSO is FECO, but not all FECO is RSO, if that makes sense. So FECO is full extract cannabis oil, can be extracted through a multitude of means and methods to produce that. And Rick Simpson, or RSO, is Rick Simpson oil, and that is an ethanol-based sort of extraction. Just to sort of clarify for continuity's sake for everyone at home. But yeah, as you say, I don't mind riding with them on that bus, but it feels like they're trying to take out the driver. They're going, we're going to stop here, and everybody gets off the bus. And it's like, no, this isn't our stop. And they're like, yeah, but it's our stop. And it's like, well,
I'm still sat at the back of the bus having a joint. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, but that's why I will give support where I can to different facets of the parts that make up the whole of this. But they have to have this recognition that they're either only temporary, and therefore they should adapt and continue to ride with us. You know, you can either get off here and your industry's gone in 2 years, i.e., you know, prescribing cannabis flower, or you can stay with us and ride to the end and see what we could actually do. And many hands make light work. And as I keep arguing, look, I don't know how to make quarterly profits go up. I don't understand. I watch Formula One, and there's a fucking advert whenever I'm watching the things on YouTube of there's an acronym, a financial acronym, and it's like, this thing shouldn't make your lives harder. And it's like, I don't even know what the acronym is. How are you giving me an advert for financial services and I don't know what you're trying to sell me? Like,
so we need you as much as you need us, innit?
Exactly. And if we could have that humility of going, yeah, you're very well educated, you know financing and economics, and boom, okay, you get the business plan and the structure, we'll dial in the fucking genetics, we'll tell you what the market is. You got, no, don't waste your time designing that. Nobody uses it like that. We all use this. Do you know what I mean? If we're not included, they're just going to create a gesture novelty industry. Exactly. They want permanent maintenance financing. So they want to make sure that they can get your money and secure you for life, and you will pay them constantly. Every time you buy a pack of skins, it's their skins. Every time you buy this, it's that. That's what it's become. The greatest innovation we're seeing in cannabis at the minute. It's got fuck all to do with cannabis. It's all to do with vaporizers and skins and roaches, and do you know what I mean? And it's all hype and money, and it's no offense to I'm not going to name the brand or any of the other brands that are similar, but people paying ungodly amounts for glass tips. And it's like, maybe I need to look at the science.
I've ended up binning them by accident.
I bought one when I was in San Francisco, and I did my magical bike ride, and I took some acid, and rode across the Golden Gate Bridge, and I went to the fucking botanical gardens down in the center of the city. And I was literally on a street corner like this, and I had my joint, and I was trying to figure out where I was going, like on my map. And I started to ride away and went to put the joint in my mouth, and glass tip had fallen out. And I was just like, that was like $10 or whatever it was. It was a good quality tip, because I don't like
the tip. I can't smoke my joint. Everything's fucked.
Yeah, so I just ripped the end off and went, all right, old school. I am in America after all. A lot of them smoke without roaches. So I just ripped like the paper down and was like, all right, this is fine.
Go on, lad.
But yeah, that literally, because of the money of it, it took me years even to buy roach. I used to joke when we used to session around my old house, like back in the day when I was living on the bread line, and just quite traumatic and a quasi-addictive drug state most of the time. I joke that the roach would get posted through the door. You know, the flyers being like, come to Aldi or whatever. But like, yeah, roach just gets delivered to the house. It's fine.
Fuckers pass it to me when I'm walking past the doors of supermarkets, and that's mad. Picture of a cute dog on it and that PGRs.
Yeah. But yeah, there's always the spectrum, and anybody that's trying to like reinvent the wheel or whatever, yes, you'll have a market. Most of it will be novelty, then it will kind of peter into a standard thing. But you have to go for the mass market, and the mass market of us are still, frankly, they're not people who are going to listen to this podcast. They're not people that are ever going to search the word cannabis. They smoke weed.
I always say it about growers.
They buy weed. They buy weed from somebody, and they go, I don't care what name it is. Don't tell me your name. Just let me buy the weed. That is still a large chunk. 100% that is still the majority of cannabis people. We all like to think that we're nerds, and no, there's a few thousand of us that are real fucking nerds in the UK. But every other fucker is either just regurgitating buzzwords and trying to ride the coattails, or wanting some sort of social media infamy or fame or egoic attention. They're not interested in actually really learning the fucking thing and participating in a growing conversation and community. They just want to feel like the warmth of it without contributing to the fire. Does that make sense? And that's not to say I don't mean that. I don't think they're doing it necessarily narcissistically and deliberately. I think any of us, that when you're out of in the darkness and you see the warmth of the fire, why would you not go towards it?
It's when you're brand new to it, innit? It is literally like, oh shit, no way, fucking hell, this whole world's been there. It is, like you say, you can't really blame them for it. It's not necessarily malicious, but it is just, they don't really know.
There's a certain naivety.
And obviously, I sound arrogant sat here. 1 second, I'm going to try and connect.
Apologies, folks, for slight technical difficulties here. You back?
Yeah, man, I think so. How's that?
Yeah, seem to be working. Okay.
Sorry about that, bro. It just keeps coming up. Your internet connection's lagging.
That's all right. Crap, what were we just saying?
Just.
Oh, yeah. So the point I was going to make that is it's excited naivety. And you can entirely understand it. It's like when somebody goes to see a band for the first time, oh my God, and there's like some guy there in a band shirt being like, yeah, I've seen him 50 times and they're good. Do you know what I mean? And the same happens but the only difference, I guess, is that there's so much misinformation. So a lot of people will be like, I've just learned about cannabis, and did you know about this and this? And they'll go, oh yeah, I only smoke indicas. And you're just like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Suddenly you're in deep. Yeah, I see it at the shows and that. We seen it last year, so obviously everyone's talking about one of the shows. He's like, oh, it's going to be bangers, and all. And I was saying to people, like, we all know how we can and can't talk. We all know what sort of stuff we can say, and that person that comes over randomly asking, "Yo, fucking got any packs for us, boy?" It's probably a bit dodgy. And then a few people have said like they don't know in it. They've probably never had that interaction with police and stuff. Like there's a whole new generation coming up now. So as much as like I'll pull my face at like what we was going to say about like shop etiquette and stuff like that, and people can be a bit fucking brazen. And like some of these events, it is a bit too much when it's like, I remember, like say, working in a shop in 2018, we never talk about anything. We don't show pictures or anything. I ended up leaving the shop because I discussed the legality of certain things instead of just saying you need to leave the shop right now. So it's like ultimately it's leading into like this new generation are coming up, and it's like it's legal and open when it's not. And I do think a lot of it is roll bang yourself. I get that it is legal, but it is still they're fucking coming for us. And there's a whole culture now of.
I think it's the image. A lot of those people, they'll go to a field event. They'll go to say Product Earth or a field event, and they'll not know the difference. They'll not understand the nuance of how things go. You know, I'm an event organizer and ran thing. You have to tread so many fucking lines to be able to put shit on, and it's like, and then people message you go, "Can I buy weed at your event?" And it's like, I'm not even going to answer your message. What do you expect me to? Yeah, like what? Yeah, but you get shit like this, and it's like, what kind of event is it? Who are the kind of people that are going to be there? Like you said, there's got to be this thing. So people will turn to that event and whatever not know that it's not a cannabis event or assume that it was a cannabis event. Like
we had it the other day. We had one of the shops had big fucking festival in their car park, loads of stockists there and everything. And it's a shop's big fucking open day. Bouncy castle there, rodeo bull there. And it ended up a bit of a thing on Instagram. And I seen a few comments. It was like, "Oh, an illegal event." You know, like obviously it's a bit fucking bit whatever. And it was like, it's not an illegal event. This isn't a smoke up in a park. This is a garden centre's fucking festival that they're throwing for families to come join in. Do you get what I mean? It's like you say, it was just that different recognition of, oh, fuck yeah, what is the different types of events? Because there are some where, like you say, it's invite only things, and then there's others where.
But I think it's
in your Yelp pages.
I think the issue is that it's what they see. I'm not going to name any shops, but there are some shops you can pull up to smoking a joint, park your car, walk in the shop smoking the joint, and get whatever you want, say whatever you want, act however you want to all of the fucking staff, and then just leave again. And so if you're then the naive person that goes, well, that guy's smoking a joint, or again, some proprietors of hydro shops will smoke weed in their shops. You know, I'm thinking of one in the East End of Glasgow, lads, that fucking love yous. When I first met yous, I was in insanity, just walking into a room and they're just rolling up me like, what the fuck is going on here? Like there's some that are so
blows my mind as a rep, because I've worked in, like say, the shop I was in was fully legit, no matter, like we don't talk anything, and like say a lot of the customers were fully legit. And then when I've walked in some shops and I'm doing the whole legit businessman thing, I've not got a clipboard, but I might as fucking well have. To get what I mean? I'm going in wet behind the ears. And then another rep's walked in and big fucking warhead hanging out the gob, thrown down on a beanbag, and that. Oh shit! So. It's one of them.
Yeah. So, see, I think my point is that if you then don't know, if you're walking in that shop, you see that or smell weed, you're going to be like, well, I can talk about weed here. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So, and it's like you said, that if you don't know, and I think this is where, again, humility needs to come in, and we need to kind of check our own egos. I say that myself. I try to regularly do so. That just because somebody said something you find stupid, or something that you know is factually incorrect or whatever, then there are ways and means by which to challenge that. If you then ridicule this person, you're going to solidify that opinion in them. You're not going to challenge it.
Yeah, that's it. He's just an idiot who thinks different.
Exactly. And then you should always remember, like, fucking hell, earlier today, Jesus, I nearly crashed in the back of a learner because they pulled up to a roundabout that was clear on all fucking ends, and they just slammed their brakes on. I don't know what panic went through their mind or what, but they just slammed the brakes on. And so I twisted a bit. So my car went, I had to turn because I wasn't going to brake in a distance. I was a safe distance, but they just went 30 to dead.
Not the fucking.
Yeah, exactly. So I brake and turned to lock and fucking, and then I was and I went to go get right up behind them and go around them, and I was like, I've learned it all. Do you know what I mean? I had to check myself and go, no, I've been that learner. If they don't know how to drive, if they got scared or what, like, it's just because I could see that roundabout was clear 500 yards away and I felt no reason to go beyond third gear, let alone brake. Do you know what I mean? They don't. And I think that's what we forget is that
it's everyone's first time here, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think if we can have that humility and understanding, and again, I think that's not to be like everyone should take drugs all the time, but in the right circumstance with the right people, you can overcome yourself. So rather than you can ask every question you've ever wanted to of another person, you can
Yeah.
seek to participate, and people will go, "Oh yeah, I didn't know that either," or "I don't know," or you will always find this thing that some people will know more than you about other things, but they will know fuck all about the other things that you know. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? We have to recognize that configuration of strength that
That's
we.
what I do love, like about, like I say, there's always community in industry, and I do see the same of both. Is like the good shops within the industry are the ones that are like that. I'll be in the shop and we're just fucking chilling, having a brew, and a customer will come in and he's tried something mad that he's seen online, and then we're in there for fucking 3 hours talking about all the mad intricacies, and it's like you say, if you're open and I just keep calling it adaptability. If you do take shit on board, every day is a school day. Saying it yesterday with one of the Insta kids, I was like, literally every interaction I go into it, it sounds selfish, but not like what can I get from it, but like I want to gain things. I want to walk away knowing new shit. I want to, like, when we've caught up before now, and the amount of times you've blown my mind with just something that and it's like, oh shit, and then that clicks with that, and I love it, and that's how life should be. We should all be going into it
I don't think,
spreading.
yeah, I don't think that's selfish in that way because in order for you to gain that, you have to give that.
Mm.
You can't just go and like pick somebody's brain out. They'll start to turn off. They won't
Yeah,
engage
I
with it.
definitely
If you
talk. I definitely give enough fucking out.
and that's where we win this fight ultimately is oral history. Like before we had paper or anything like that, oral tradition is what survived. And the cannabis culture we survived, yes, because of things like IC Mag and various other esoteric forums and places where we could digitally connect and we could sort of,
I googled
magazines
how
and
to roll
whatever.
a joint for ages, or fucking Yahooed it back in the day. But ultimately, it was my ex's dad that taught me how to roll a free skin.
And that's what I'm on about. Like it's handed down tradition. Do you know what I mean? It's oral handed down or action in the Socratic method of being taught here. This is how to do this thing, and then you've got it. And yes, that can, as we spoke of before, lead to that narrowing of a channel. But if you can take on and accept that, not from everybody, because if you take on everybody's advice, it's never going to fucking
Yeah, yeah,
work. But if you take it into consideration, if you can listen to other people and share and go, oh, actually, does this mean X, Y, Z? Like you say, you will always come away with more. And I often
yeah.
feel this thing of, and this is again, I'm a big advocate. I'm really champion MDMA today, but it is a drug that I personally think is very useful and has great utility. Is that's one of the things that it can really give to you, is that in those intimate conversations with somebody, is you can truly learn something about them, which in doing so you learn more about yourself, and the more you give, the more you get. And once you can almost recognize that mechanism, you can start to gravitate towards the right people in your life, towards people that empty you in a positive way. Do you know what I mean? They
Yeah.
deburden you. They don't leave you empty as in arms drained. Jesus Christ, that conversation was meant like, nah, don't, not that kind of empty. I mean the sense where you feel lighter, elation. You have this thing called the vagus nerve, this cluster of nerve endings in the chest. And when that sort of thing fires and you get the sense of just, it's a
The weight
connective,
off
it's
your
a
chest,
connective
innit?
thing. Yeah, it's like this lifts, and then there's almost like a satiation in the belly, of a fullness, of a like you're connected. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, and that's the
100%.
balance in my head. That's the three states of consciousness. You've got in the Freudian sense the ego, the superego, and the id. I speak of like the hara, the heart, and the head. So the head is like intellectual processing, heart is like emotional center, and the hara, which is like the older word for like your gut intelligence,
Yeah.
in sort of a native culture.
More neurons in your gut than there are in your brain.
Exactly. This is what we found out. Yeah, exactly that. That it used to be we believed that the body was there to carry the brain. Now we recognize that the brain is there to basically interpret and understand the body in
Keep
that
this shit
sense. And
running.
yeah, it's a mental thing. But I think, as you said, if you can be open to learning, every day can be a school day. And if you are one of those people, please get into the industry and into the space
Well,
because
that's the thing, because I think actually
we're getting
what
drowning in chads, man.
I was explaining it to a shop the other day, where it's sort of like, as much as I say, obviously you need to like listen to the young guns, and like, fuck it, I've said it to a few people, like, listen to the youngest person in your firm. If you've got some guy who's working in a warehouse but he's all over Insta and he knows that everyone's going for this certain brand of fan, get him in, just run with it and see how it goes. But I was explaining that I don't think that's across the board. Do you get what I mean? Like I say, that's where the give and take comes in. If a customer does come in and is talking about this one type of piping because it's the best about, it might just be the only one that his shop could have. because I've had that before. We had exclusive ranges in our shop and there was products that we couldn't sell. I've always thought they were shit until I walked in shops and saw them in every shop. So it's like, as long as you can have give and take, and it's like, yeah, listen to when that customer says he wants that piping, mention alternatives, and then work on a nice little compromise from there. When people walk in and ask for that boost that they want because they've heard that you sell it cheap, don't just sell it them cheap. Ask them if they've tried this one, because you know that the amount of shops that sell the shit cheap make no money on it, but they'll come back for the fans and filters, and then everyone goes off on Amazon. And it's like, all because you've avoided a conversation. If you tell them that the price has gone up and you need to charge them more, they might even pay for it. They might. One of my mates did it. He went to a shop, met me for a drink, and then he was saying, like, I've got to go and put all this dough in my bank now. I've got to order this on Amazon because the shop didn't have such a thing in stock. And I was like, bro, your shop ain't going to tell you that they're struggling. Shops don't communicate. Again, the ego. They're not going to tell you they're struggling. The best thing you can do is put the money on the counter and ask them to order it. It'll be in there in 48 hours. Do you get what I mean? If everyone can just communicate a lot more. Like, I'm probably too open with how I communicate. I'm the first fucking rep I've seen on air. Do you get what I mean? I don't know.
I've asked. I will for what's the word, for honesty's, transparency's sake. Yeah, I've spoken to several. I'm not saying you're my last choice. That's not what I'm implying. Yeah, but I mean, I've spoken to quite a few people just like, nah, because then they were like, no, I don't want to have the conversations that we've basically been having for the past 2 hours.
Yeah, and I do think, like, a lot of the shops, I've had shops say to me one of my first weeks in, and I'm sort of talking exclusivity, I'm talking wholesale, I'm talking everything that's a contentious issue. And he stood up and he shook my hand and he said, yeah, but you're a kid, you ain't got a clue, have you? And I'm like, well, I've worked in a shop, I've been a customer, I've been growing since I could put my thumb in dirt, I've visited every shop in the country now, being a rep all over. I can't change my age. Do you get what I mean? So it's sort of like, at a certain point.
But even then, like you said, we need to bring this shit together. Every age group, every experience, every background. There'll be some granny somewhere that has never, like, she's never even bought hydro equipment. She's never touched a shop, never bought a nutrient. You know, she breeds her own, brews her own teas, makes her own everything. You know, and probably
my grandma was the best gardener that you'd ever meet in your life, and she died at 65, hernia the size of a football. She was on 40 pills 3 times a day. She was ready to go when she had one that she lost her appetite with, because her love was food. But all my childhood, she was just on pills, nebulizers, all this. And I've been saying since year 5, cannabis. And I was like, you don't need to sit and have a joint. I'll get you a cake. I'll do whatever. Since year 5, I've been saying this shit to her. And she died still thinking it's crazy super skunk that had fucking warp her brain and make her go sleep with a black man, because she was born in 52. She was raised through all the Cold War propaganda of how harmful it is. And like you say, best gardener ever. If we could have just actually sat her down, communicated, I probably could have done a better job of it than that. But if it wasn't so propagandized and so evil and vilified.
It's so now we're having the evil drug dealing history of what it's been. That's the only alternative. That's the reality now. Then there's this clean, corporate, taxed, very well regulated, middle class, clean industry that we're moving towards. Whereas in my head, again, it's the same. My nan died from complications of a fucking like arthritis treatment. Her hands at the end were fucked. Her body was fucking destroyed. She spent 50 something years working in nursing. She worked in palliative care for like 30 years. She saw more kids die than the average person would ever think to have cumulatively of every death they could ever fucking watch on the internet. You know what I mean? And she just internalized that shit. She had a difficult fucking marriage, and then once the kids grew up and that, and then she just never really had the chance to look after herself because she was looking for others. So then when her body started failing, she went, no, give me the fast thing. Give me the fast thing. I work in this industry. That's the right thing. And then when it was like, I now need surgery and continual injections because of complications of the medications. Oh, they're now going to give me these medications. Oh, now they're going to start irradiating my bones. Oh, now they're going to start this. Now they're going to start like, and like you say, cannabis was never a conversation. But both of our grannies, I can imagine at a time, it should have been as easy as, Gran, you can garden, because she had a beautiful garden. At one point, with her and my granddad, they had like aviaries and like a football pitch of garden, dude.
I don't know who taught them how to do landscape design and that, but they was fucking on the ball, innit?
They care for it because they have that pride and that connection to nature that we have lost in this instant gratification generation. But the vision that I see is when then I was like, I want weed and need access to weed. It should have just been her knocking a couple of trees out. growing them for me,
That's it.
because then she's got the to keep her active as she's sort of getting older, and she loves fucking gardening. And then from all the byproducts, I take all the like the bud and the bits that I would want, sort of things. And then from the rest of it, you can make, like I say, oils, like you said, into
Yeah,
foods,
that's
into
it.
drinks, into capsules, suppositories,
Get the
into
roots,
balms and
everything.
lotions.
It's
Exactly.
every part of the plant.
Yeah, and that's what I want to see is every fucking 15, 16-year-old fucking, I'm thinking with, the socks tucked in, traditional corner chav. Like, they should be growing in the mama's fucking house. They just fucking should, because they could be paying the bills for the mam.
Yeah,
That's what I see.
always gets
And then
me.
the granny's houses, that they've all got the little bungalows and they've got all that outside space and all those green lawns. It's all I see is unproductive land, not in the capitalist sense, but in the ways of a socialist sense of seizing the means of production. From the seed, we could be rich, not in the look at my Bugatti and my fucking Rolex. Rich in community and wealth. We could actually keep it fucking here.
I always say about these CBDCs and that shit, it's like ultimately I know kids there that'll fucking take a bottle of my own brew and pass me a loaf of bread for it. Ultimately, if we've got them communities and that familial bond, it don't matter about, like we said at the start of it, don't matter about the money of it. We can all just, there's a community, everyone provides for everything. I've seen like where they said about Native Americans when a fucking white man went over and said about like, well, where's the jails? What do you do with the thieves? And they're like, there's no thieves because no one's rich. There's no one poor. There's no one hungry. Everyone, if you're hungry, you go to the baker, he sorts you out because he knows he can come over there and you'll sort his shoes out.
Yeah,
shit like that. And that's how this should be, everything feeding into everything.
Exactly that. And I think that's what needs to happen, if anything is to happen, rather than this whole legalization debate and everything else, is we need to remove the mentality of what is bad about growing cannabis. Because if I can grow houseplants, why can't I grow cannabis? If I can, grow tomatoes and onions and potatoes and trade them and make profit without being a corporation, why can't I do it with cannabis? Like, it's the vision is wrong. They want to turn and pause everything that has happened. It's like, no, dealing is as much part of cannabis culture as fucking 100%. Consuming cannabis. And that's why you were saying so many people they don't want to understand it though. They want to go, no, but dealing was illegal, so therefore it's bad. It's like, no, they criminalized us, therefore they made it.
That's why it was bad, because it was criminalized. Like you said the other day about like homosexuality and that was criminalized and then it wasn't. And it's just everything ultimately, it's like 10 years from now, 50 years from now, we'll probably look back and say, oh, well, told you so. But then the thing is that even going down their sort of pathways of the legal route and all that, yeah, cool, even if they do give it us and we get full legalization where you can walk in Tesco and buy 4 joints for 50 quid, unless it is like in the hands of us, we're still never, I'm not going to walk in a shop and buy it. I know so many people that aren't going to walk in a shop and buy it. There's fucking...
Unless it's at our shops. That's, as you say, is the thing. If it's... I want it to get to a point where Tesco have it. There is a McDonald's of cannabis. There is these dispensaries that are so just white middle class money that none of them ever touched weed and none of them ever do. It's just about making money. That should exist, and bless them to it. But there should be allowed the Dave of every fucking street. The guys that have actually dedicated their lives and their times to this, if they want to continue in this, they should be given that spot, because most of us would bite the hand off anybody if we could have a space where we would get paid to talk about weed all day. And consume it all day. Like, what? That's the dream of millions of people. This is nobody wants to go to work. Millions of us want to go to work. Would work fucking 16-hour days in grow rooms and shit. There's a huge industry.
What killed me with like the banking and that. When like they've turned around, they've closed so many shops because of the banking, all this shit, like literally can't afford to pay the staff. All these young lads now that have like gone into a hydro shop straight out of work, straight out of school because they knew someone that knew someone. All gone fucking signed on and shit now, do you get what I mean? Obviously, I don't know if fucking they have. I've not kept in touch with most of them. But it's like, that's now a drain on the economy. Whereas that was just a net good. There was no bad coming from him being in a shop. There was no bad coming from that shop. They say there's byproducts of it down the line, whatever. But ultimately, it's just providing for the community. So then you have to look at it again of like, do they just want to destroy small businesses? Because B&Q are all right to sell fucking hydro tents.
Well, I think, it's because then you can't. It's because you can't go into being. You can buy the hydro tent from B&Q or the Range, but you can't talk to them. You can't walk in there with a joint. You can't go and hang out and play pool for 3 hours and talk with the owner and meet some mates. And it's not a social space. It's not a safe space. Yeah. That's what they want, is to sanitize cannabis. So the only time you're allowed to be, hey Bob Marley and chill away, is in your own home. That's it. The only time you're allowed to express your culture, and as to use that analogy, to actually be gay, is safe in your own home. But you can buy your T-shirt that says "I love queers" or whatever.
Well, it's what you said about in Germany.
They'll say, exactly that. It's a token. It feels it's entirely just tokens, and it's about them capturing the market before the true grassroots rises and goes, no. Full decriminalization, no limitations, no restrictions. You bow to us, not the other way around. And that's what the cannabis people need to remember. Because as you spoke about in Park Life or any event where there's a lot of people and people can get that sly selfie with a cop, that's because we outnumber them. We outnumber them hundreds to one. People need to recognize this. I'm not saying about power in terms of getting on the street and fucking being violent or whatever else.
Down in street,
but if we truly all sought to tomorrow for the next 2 months learn the truth about cannabis, all of us, like really, like get rid of this. Oh, I smoke sativa, I smoke indica, I'm just hemp. Any of that shit. We go no. Here's the actual fucking facts, and we all get on the same sheet. Within a year, we change the world. The problem we have now is everyone's like, oh, you're infighting. You're damn right. I'm going to infight anybody that goes, no. We don't grow marijuana. We grow the hemp plant. Yeah. I want to fucking punch. I'm sorry. It causes me such vitriol. You saw with like the Dan Herrer episode. I got an hour in and I just kind of went, no. I had to explode. Like I don't mean to.
I comment on everything I see on Insta. Anything I see with hemp, I just use the real name. It's cannabis sativa. Yeah, because ultimately it is the same thing, and it's just more division. The first 10 minutes of the episode you had with Callie, and obviously it was like, oh, it's really good. We've got all these divisions, and I'm like, but that's just segmenting it. Do you get what I mean? It is really good because it's more devoted. You can actually focus on these things, but ultimately us saying that medical cannabis is totally different to this harmful skunk that I can get, when actually my mate who got really bad anxiety after a fucking incident, his shit giving more anxiety, whereas my mate grows the shit for me that I know works for me. I'd say that's more of a medicine than that is, but that one's the dangerous skunk and that one's the medical.
You've got more options as well. I mean, I know a lot of people, you can speak from a point of privilege being in the space and knowing a lot of people. But again, to go back to that majority of people just buying weed, still what they will have generally is that dealer will have 2 or 3 different things. And even if they're like, I don't care about the name, what they'll do is follow your nose. I need a little clip that jumps in with fucking Uncle Kush saying, follow your nose. And it's just literally, you'll smell it and go, I want that one. Do you know what I mean?
It's nice to have a choice, isn't it?
If you then say, took that and actually, can I have that instead? No, you've taken it now. You're going to have to rebuy this. No, you can't return it. Everyone's like, dealers are fucking harsh people. I've never been refused to return something from a dealer. And when I have, what has ended up happening is me and that person have gone to his dealer and gone, what the fuck?
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? When there's been an issue with it, innit?
You've gone up chain, and it's usually I'm quite lucky. Most of the people that then succeeded became like long-term dealers or distributors, as it were. They have a fucking touch, a look, an ability. They have an ability to just go and get it into they've almost got an internal grading system. Do you know what I mean? There's one guy I know in Durham that if we ever get the project that we're working on off the fucking ground, that guy is my bud tender. He is quality control. Do you know what I mean? Because he's touched like every big batch of weed that's ever hit the fucking Northeast. Do you know what I mean? So it's like he's got an internalized catalog, like I can't remember what you call it in wine, the thing of the nose. Yeah. And he's got that nose. He's got that ability. Like, no, that's like that. Northern Lights, probably 2004, 2005. Do you know what I mean? He's just got such a fucking a way with it.
My boys now has just moved over to Tenerife and bought a shop and all that. He's opening a shop over there, and he's the same as that. Like literally, where I am one where I just weed's weed. I was smoking nothing but sativas for fucking and hazes for 6 weeks, wondering why I couldn't sleep. Before he turned around and said, "Oh, get this down you." And it knocked my socks off, innit? I was like, oh, fair enough. It's not all hype. But he is literally like, he'll take fucking one puff or something. He'll tell you the grandparents of it and that, or the lineage of it. And you just think, for you to be on that level, like, and that's the thing. There's so much like that you can get into it. And there's varying levels to everything. Like you're saying, you can be a full-on connoisseur. It was like Leafy was saying about like some of the best growers he's ever seen them, like fucking outside of Buxton. And I can personally attest to that. Do you get what I mean? It's crazy shit, man. And it's literally, the more, like you say, if we could all get on one page or at least all just sort of be open to, like I say, leave your ego at the door. Everyone has got something to contribute to it. I know I'm fucking mouthy fucker, but I do still like when I can sit down with one of the professional people in the industry that will lay me out and don't just fucking walk away. I know I've locked myself out of a lot of rooms, but when I can and I do get to see the other perspectives and stuff like that, I love it. And I think that's everyone like does need to go into it with a bit more of that. But it is ultimately it's that thing of like you say, the human thing of like, nah, but I know it proper. We've had shops there that've done it before where it's like they've all come together to form one big like sort of conglomerate, a union. We've got more buying power. And then the shop that's got two shops suddenly wants a bit more of them fans because I've got more space and I'm the bigger shop. And you're like, but then you're more equal than us. And it was supposed to be equal. And it's,
well, I think, yeah,
I think you said it the other day, that wetigo, innit? Wetigo,
Wetigo,
American thing of just literally like greed ultimately seeps in.
Yeah, and it becomes, or it seems, I mean, you can just observe this really of certain people that it's an addiction. The acquisition of wealth in and of itself starts to become an addiction, and people lose sight of what it means and how the corners they're cutting and what they're doing to make that money and the consequences of it. That's basically everything that we've said about the economics prior. But yeah, I agree. I think if we can get just more people communicating more honestly and openly, and yeah, there will always be that financial incentive to, you know, have the ego and the bravado as part of the marketing, the advertising. You know, we don't smoke the same and all of that, but that's almost, I don't know, it's going to sound a bit horrible, but I don't mean it to. That's your patter for the naive. When you're in the community and you're in the in-house and you're talking to the people, it just makes you sound like an asshole. If you're
I always say to people when they're in shops and they're like, oh, bro, 27 off a plant me, mate. I'm like, how long did you veg? And you just see them like shivel up inside themselves because it's like, oh, well, you know, it's like a 3 month veg and that. And it's that, like you say, it's, you can say that shit on road. You probably tell your boys in the pub, like, yeah, I get 20. So when you're in the shop, like you say,
it's not what people want, how they want to communicate. And again, I think it's a protectionist thing. It's an anti-anxiety. Do you know what I mean? It's that little white lie that tells to make themselves feel more comfortable in the space. I can empathize with that. I can understand it. But again, I think that the hydro spaces are, if you know how to handle yourself, like I said, if you talk about tomatoes, you know, if you go, I've got these tomatoes, 99% of the people in any of the shops across the country go, tomatoes. And you're free to talk.
I had an old guy come in the other day and he was like the proper old gentleman who walked and like I say it's a legitimate fucking enterprise garden centre and he's coming in, he's talking about his lettuces and he's like, I'm looking for this light for him and then the shops had to explain to him, but like, you know, like a lettuce isn't really a flowering plant. He's turned around, he's like, all right, what will I need for my tomatoes as well then once they go? And you're like, come on, pal, no worries. Like, now I can actually talk to you, innit? And like you say, it's just that sort of etiquette. Like, there used to be signs all over the doors and that, like, we will not discuss like criminal activity and that because ultimately we don't want to know what the customers are doing, but we do want to be able to help you with everything. Say I'm a rep now, I've got less of the responsibility because I'm not asked what a shop for me and says it's not that I don't work in a shop. But I do think it is like there's a bit of complacency with how we are nowadays. But like you say, if you have just got a bit more decorum about it, just carry yourself a bit nice, it'll go a lot further. Because I've had people say to me like, oh, that shop was a dickhead. Nah, you probably went in with the wrong attitude. I've had it before now where people have gone for jobs and then they've walked into the job, said, oh, I've been growing for 10 years. I've got 4 crops. Look, I can show you and no, you don't. Like the reason I feel like I do so well in this industry and that is literally like I've got a passion for growing. Do you know what I mean? Like say my grandma had me growing from young. I've always had something growing at a time. And the more that you can sort of be legitimate, even if you're just playing the fucking talking game half time, it's like passing your test, innit? You need to, and then you learn how to drive when you're on the road. But
exactly.
carry yourself accordingly.
Yeah, I think that's a good sort of way to wrap up. I've got a couple of quick questions here. I'm just checking through the notes here. I think we did really well. We touched on, I think, every topic that we wanted to, that I can see from here. I don't really feel the need to question that. All right, then. So do 2 questions. We'll do my final question. But before that, you spent enough time, like you said, in hydro. You work obviously now as a rep. You've seen, as you said, basically, if not every shop in the country. What would be your like ideal model if then say cannabis is no longer a thing at all? Anybody can grow it. There's no restrictions. what do you want to see kind of the hydro space look like?
It'd be sick, obviously. So big nice premises, a big nice car park for barbecues in the sun, obviously in an ideal world. But like a community centre for where the old days have got the dobbies and that they can go around on a Saturday, sit, having that, I'd take the dog round and that. That's what our shop was. And like even if it was like young thugs track it up or old gents, they'd all be stood having a natter in the middle of the shop because we'd have fucking queues building. And I do like that whole aspect of it. It's like this gardening in general, allotments, it's there for you to stand and chat to the guy next to you and learn bits. And I think my whole biggest thing is just the community vibe to it. So you'd be able to walk in, get your advice. To be fair, I think what more shops do need is a little literature section. I know everything's decent on Google and that now, but we had a little bit in the back full of books, and it was like I can show you any fucking chart that I needed. I knew where shit was. You're not worrying about the Wi-Fi is just down for a minute. And I just nice little waiting area because a lot of the shops, obviously, not as much now because the shops are struggling with everyone online. But when I was in the shop and like you'd have days where there's 4 of us on a till, 2 people in the back trying to fucking pick and pack everything, and then you've got 3 people stood by the coffee machine waiting. So then, like you say, it is nice when you can have a little pool table, have a little arcade machine there. I like a lot of the shops have got decent displays and stuff like that. I think that's it. Like somewhere where it is open, nice, well branded, well lit, and the plants need to be on real times. That's what kills me in all the shops, and we did it in our shop. Obviously, you save electric, so you just have the lights on in the tents, the display tents, for 6 hours. But then it's like I'm telling all of you need to be in 18.6, and then I'm keeping these on 6.18. So it just, but yeah, it'd just be a place where you can chat openly and that. And I say there's a lot of perfect shops out there, to be fair. There's something out there for everyone. You can find a shop that's good for you, but the thing is walking into a physical bricks and mortar shop, because ultimately, like I say, a shop might look after you and give you fucking discount because they can't compete with a big boy down the road or whatever. But they can't compete online either, so they're boxing you off with this. They're making a fiver on it. You're going to go online and still fucking look after that shop down the road, and ultimately your guy that's boxed you off for years and years and years is now closed. You never chat to him again. You might see him at Aldi one day in the queue and, oh shit, mate, what happened? No fuck about off me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that is a major point that I want to sort of to highlight. I think we both would agree with the sentiment that support your local hydro shop. Even if just popping in, even if you're not necessarily speculating to spend something, go in and get interested in buying something. Go in and be like, oh, what is this? Even if you're talking to them, you're keeping their skills sharp. And then when somebody else comes in and sees extra customers in there as well, the human psychology goes, well, I should buy some and I need to be here as well.
Footfall and that. The amount of times I've been in there and like a Royal Mail guy's come in and the shop owner's been like, oh, this miserable cunt, because he just comes in and throws the letters. But then when they've walked in and they've seen me there and they're like, so what's this? And then suddenly it strikes conversation, like you say, it's just actually being there. And it doesn't even need to necessarily be the one 5 minutes from you, because I've had shops there in Liverpool where they're like, I've never once served a Scouser, but I get pure Welsh in, because no one likes to shop on their street.
Right, exactly. People don't, we don't want to be associated. But again,
it's just still support, like you say, your shop, your fucking guys. Look after the people that look after you. Ultimately, these were the ones that were here before you started your Insta pages and that.
100%. Like I was just going to say there, and if they don't have it, I'm sorry, if you look at this country, there's very few places you live where you don't have, if you're near a hydro shop that you're not near to. And if you're driving that hydro shop, as 99% of you will be because of the size of the equipment, etc., run to the next one, as long as you're still putting money into those pockets. Because
that stays in the industry.
Yeah. That exactly as you say, fuck Amazon. They've taken over enough of the fucking world. And like you say, with these other retailers and whatever else, like they need to stay in their lanes.
It's bad as well with Amazon, because they've got that thing of like be the lowest seller apparently. I don't focus on that.
It's a race to the bottom. Their entire structure is just fucked. It's about screwing everybody over to get them more money. So yeah, like anything you can do to support your local hydro shop, guys. Same, I'd argue, with your head shops and everything else. Even if you're just in there for a chat and you grab a pack of skins for £1 or whatever, you wouldn't believe what that could do for the morale of the individual in that shop. Because, like you said, we had a golden age during lockdown where it was starting to break the Albanian kind of stranglehold in a few places, and a lot of hobbyists came out of the woodwork, and now most people have spent their money. They bought all their equipment, and I'm one of these people. You know, I would run a tent for 10 years if I get away with it.
That's it.
Do
With
you know what I mean?
LEDs
Because
as well, and that people aren't
yeah,
going back to a shop for 4 years now.
yeah, you
Do you get what
don't
I
need the
mean?
bulbs, and you can't, you know, grabbing this, and exactly the products are getting better and services. So in whatever ways you can, you know, direct people towards them. I'll always fucking sorry, push people towards Hydro Pro in Washington. Aiden's supported me unbelievable amounts. He's given me thousands over the years to support sponsor events and shit like that.
Well, that's what always gets me as well. I've had reps like pull me, and obviously there's fucking negative people out there, and they say like, because I'll do a lot with sample runs and stuff like that. We don't really like to put a load of the dough into the merch and branding as much as I would giving free product sort of thing. Because I'd rather put it into the right hands. And then I'll have the negative folks that are like, oh well, you're taking money out of a shop till. And it's like, but I'm not, because if I give them a run one time and they've got 4 rooms and I can just change one room and then they'll come back and buy the other 4. And then if I can get them onto ours for the next fucking 10 years and it's nearly let slip them, but it's a very nice margin. You're really looking after your store by supporting us. And we're brewed in Sheffield. We're local. But it's like fucking literally like, it just, yeah, it makes no sense to not sort of go down that path, innit?
Yeah. Same with, again, and I'm going to take some flack for this, but whatever. Buy local weed. I'm sorry. Yeah, you can buy. Yeah, spend your money on your Cali or whatever the fuck. But like,
On that note, I'd say
please
a lot of
support
it isn't.
the majority of it isn't. Yeah,
A lot of the Cali you're buying, it is local, but you're paying for it not to be local, and a fucking designer and a load of PGR twatted in it, and
yeah.
yeah,
So, yeah, basically, just show love to that which you love. Do you know what I mean? Hate on what you hate by all means, if that's what you want to do, but show love to what you love, because again, you don't know what it means to that small grower. You don't know
you
what it
still
means
want an
to
industry to be here, innit? If you
100% exactly.
you like being in your shop, you need to
Vote,
be
yeah,
there.
vote with your dollar, as they say. All right, I'm quite aware of the time, so I'm going to ask you my last question, if that's all good, which is, what are we not talking about that we really should be talking about?
I'd say synthetic PGR pandemic. I don't know, pandemic. All this conversation we've just now got demonetized. What a piss take.
I've always been demonetized, so you don't have to worry about that.
But yeah, just that. So like, I've got guys there that'll they'll shout me, "Oh, bro," because they know I work in the space, and they're like, "I've got 10 flavors here. It's next level." I go and look, and it's just little orange PGR pebbles. But it's all they've seen for the past 3 years. So now they don't know any different. I've been at these events. Kids have come over like, look at this that I've done. It's banging. And then I'll show them some of mine that one of my mates has passed me. And there's actual bud structure to it. There's calyxes. And they look at me like I've got wispy bushwhack.
It's wispy. That's what you hear back
It's
from it.
mad.
Wispy. It's like
Crazy. And it's like, no, this is how it should look. It's the thing. So the amount of people, obviously back in the day, people were twatting it high. So when I worked in a shop, we were selling PGRs, and it's plant growth regulators, synthetic ones. So there's naturally occurring ones that are in a lot of the flowering boosters and stuff like that, decent for your plant, don't cause any issue. The synthetic ones are made for ornamental plants. So it's made for like orchids, bonsais. You put it in, it stunts it, puts it straight into flower. It looks beautiful. You can put it in consumables. You can grow tomatoes with it, and it gets some flowering. It's fine. As soon as you start combusting them, obviously it becomes a carcinogenic, and it gives you brain cancer and stuff like that. And so anytime I've sold a bottle, it's come along with this 15-minute fucking spiel about it. And it usually is met with, but I sell it, I don't smoke it. And then I've been in stores like as a rep where they're selling their own brand of it. And I've again sort of gone into my spiel. I've explained that like our Dragon Force, that's just a finishing product, obviously mentioned it at the start, it'll just end it. You'll get your density with that, and it's natural, and it's not a PGR, it's just sulfur. It'll ripen your plant. But he's trying to sell this PGR to this customer. So I've explained all this fucking shit. And then ultimately the shops turned around and he said like, oh, well, it's only harmful in large quantities. And I thought, but ultimately, this guy is growing probably on a larger scale. He seemed about it. He's passing it down the line, down the line. The person who's passing someone a Z, I'll smoke a Z a week, that didn't come with a warning saying, oh, only consume one a day because it does contain harmful carcinogens. Do you know what I mean? We all slag these off, but at least they put it on it. causes lung cancer. This, it causes brain cancer, and it's packed with the PGRs. I was in a shop speaking to someone, and they asked if we can be used alongside PGRs. I explained, obviously, can, but why? They got the spiel as well. And he said, like, oh, I don't put it at the start, because if you put it in at the end of veg, start of flower, it stays in your plant until you're consuming it at the end. He turned around and said, oh, well, I basically flush with it, me. It's like the last thing I put in. It's not really exactly what you've just done. I was like, let me know your number so I can block you. Do you get what I mean? It is bad shit. And ultimately, we all grow off how we were taught to grow. I never used PK at the start because the guy who taught me how to do it, he just taught me with Boost. When I started working in a shop, I learned about PK. Fucking hell, changed my life. If everyone's just learned how to use this little fucking bottle and they just know that when I put that in, it'll turn a shit crop all right. It'll do nice shit to a good crop, but it basically doubles your yield in terms of weight. In terms of quality and all that, you're getting the same taste, you're getting the same flavour, you're getting all this. But if you know the recipe involves that, you're going to put it in. I speak to so many professional people now that are high-level growers, fully respected, that will turn around and say, I put 0.2 of a mil in just to stop the stretch. 90% of the country put 0.2 of a mil in just to stop the stretch. If you know about growing and you can look at it in crop steering with generative and vegetative and stuff like that, you understand the 2-week stretch in flower. Treat it as veg. Keep feeding a base feed, or just still give it what it needs. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, literally, you can. I was just
consider it an extra 2 week of veg and not 2 week off your flower.
That's all I do with BioBiz is literally that. Is don't give it. Don't do a hormonal trigger. It's going to have a natural hormonal cycle because of the basically what happens is plants grow in darkness, not in light. And so it's only had 6 hours of light to grow in, and then all of a sudden you're doubling that amount of time. So yeah, there's going to be that boom. And if you suddenly put in something that's designed to make it go, all that extra feed, it's going to woof. So no, I same stall them out at least a week to 2 weeks before
treat it as sort of act accordingly. So when you
same with your light as well.
Net, flip it and then have the 2 week going over the net or something, but you don't need to put that in because once you do it blocks the auxins and all that.
Well, it changes the uptake of everything else as well. And yeah, it's all quite new sort of science, but none of it looks good. We'll put it that fucking way. But again, with the positioning of the light, you can manually uptake your light rather than jumping up sections is another way of doing it. You can artificially train down into flower. Everyone's like, oh, low stress. You could pull the top, tie it down for the first 2 weeks and then let that top plane back up. Like there's many things that you could do other than
worst case scenario, you can cut the top of it off.
Yeah, just
if that starts getting too high to your thing, and obviously you've not got too much of a colour, chop the top off. It's a wind pollinated plant. The highest plant will end up producing more. If you've got a nice even canopy, you've got nice even. So if it does start getting that high, but don't fucking put that in. It will help and it will double your yield and all this. But I can break apart a smoke now and it smells of mint, looks fucking orange and hairy. It's shit. If you're into your cali weed and all that, it looks good for you. But ultimately...
exactly, that's the thing. You're producing a product only for one section of the market, whereas quality is quality. Do you know what I mean? Like, I am very happy with that, which I've always sort of produced into the level that I get to. And I produce for me, so it doesn't need to go out to get any validation. But then when friends sort of would consume or it's passed on or whatever, it's like, and it's this thing of like a bud should squeeze and go back. You know what I mean? You want to be in a moisture level of not crush and it's going to dust. No, you're too dry. You want, be able to squeeze it and it reforms to its same shape.
But that's what gets me with a lot of these PGR ones as well. People are just like, they squeeze it and like, oh, it's dense because like you say, it's not even touch crumble. It's soft, dense, and then when you actually try and break it apart, it's just actually soft.
But and you get loads of people.
You can't, it just fucking dissolves.
And loads of people will sell that wet, like so wet in the inside, dry on the outside, because it's so dense that the I don't know what the hell is it I'm thinking of here. The way that the heat distributes through the product, it can't like evaporate and break. Yeah, it basically can't break it down. Yeah,
and that's the thing as well.
And that's where you get water activity, and you get lots of illness, lots of bacterial and viral infections. One of my previous guest viruses don't exist, but it's. And there's so many other
commercial ones. They're spraying with fucking pesticides. If they've got spider mite right at the end, they're whacking it with a load of these.
Which people are using
chemicals and then still harvesting it.
Yeah, neem oil and shit like that. Which again, oh yeah, it's used.
Neem oil ain't too bad. There's some shit out there, let me tell you.
No, I know, but even like neem oil, the combustion of neem oil,
Yeah.
problematic. Eating it, not necessarily a problem. That's what people keep forgetting. Like, oh, if it can be used on apples, it's fine on this shit. You
Combustion.
eat an apple, your stomach acid is fucking strong. Your lungs, quite weak little things. You know what I mean? As mine have found out recently because they seem to not be fucking working properly. Last week's episode, basically, I lost my voice, which nobody knows yet, but you'll find out. Spoiler alert. But yeah, it sounds quite funny. My voice breaks a few times. Like I go to hit some high pitch and it just goes, nothing happens.
Like Pete's
Like
a delivery kid off Simpsons or some shit.
Uh, there we go. That was our mandatory Simpsons reference for the episode, folks. I think that marks the time to wrap things up. Lewis, I very much enjoyed this. I think definitely gonna pull you back on later on in the year just so we keep chatting about what's happening in the hydro space because I think there's more that we could talk about here and maybe some more things that we could jump in more in depth to help educate some growers. And it's not to say we're right and you're wrong. That's not what we're saying here, folks. Just provide more up-to-date information of what is available to my audience so that you guys can grow the best quality product, whether that be for yourself or
I don't think we've mentioned too much about hydro in it, but like you say, we've covered everything. And anyone that has got any questions or whatever, they can all reach out. But yeah, I'd be happy to come back on and we'll chat about.
Sweet. So I suppose, where can then people keep up to date with you? What do you want to plug? What links, etc.?
Obviously, Instagram, it seems everything for everywhere now. So we've got the website, shogunfertilizers.com. Instagram, Shogun Fertilizers, and then mine, Shogun_Lewis, which
Sweet.
I'm active, very active. I've had slated off other reps because Insta's not the real world, but
it's a big part of our world. So yeah, you're doing good in the space. And like I say, I think it's great that you're being so vocal and so honest because I think the industry needs it. It's refreshing to see, and I think it will breathe new life into what is not a dying industry. It's one that is being killed, and the ego and the ignorance of a lot of the vanguard are going to help it get buried. So I hope more people listen to you as you keep going, and I hope more of these conversations keep happening in grow shops up and down the country.
Definitely saying I'm not always right though. I'm very opinionated. I'm not always right. I don't even think I'm right a lot of the time.
That's good thing to clarify and to understand with humility. So respect that. All right, I'm gonna let you get off. I'm gonna do some housekeeping and then I'm gonna get on with my day.
Well, it's been lovely speaking to you. Health and happiness always. After yourself, man.
Yeah, man. Peace and love, brother. I'll catch you later. Very much. Well, there you go, folks. That was, as we're terming him, Hydro Lewis. I nearly told you his full name there. For all it is quite public. I'm respecting his wishes to not tell you his full name there. Check out the links below. Check him out on Instagram. You can keep up with Lewis. He's, as he says, quite opinionated. Do respect this sort of caveat at the end there. Not that he wasn't sort of acting with humility all the way through the podcast, but it's always good when people can recognize the difference between sort of opinion and fact, and to recognize that they believe that they're right, but may not necessarily be right. That's something I always try and clarify on here, that obviously I am very opinionated and have some very strong opinions. And obviously there are some things where I truly believe that I'm right on, some things I am right on, and some things I clearly won't be right on. But until we have more of these conversations, how do we find out these things? Anyway, appreciate you all for keeping in for what, I don't know how long that's been. It feels like 3 hours nearly. Are we touching 3 hours? I don't know. I've lost track of time or whatever time we started. Anyway, appreciate you guys for hanging in there. Hope you enjoyed this one. If you learned something new, do give it a like, a share, a subscribe, a rating, a star, whatever it is you're doing, whatever platform it is that you're enjoying this podcast on. I greatly appreciate it and you. If you really enjoyed this, check us out on patreon.com/the Simpa Life, where for less than a cup of coffee a week, you can help me keep the lights on this little project. Check out thesimpalife.com for exclusive articles, blogs, details. I've got my email address back as well for the info@SimpaLife. Having fought for several hours with DNS settings and GoDaddy and Microsoft. So if anyone's tried to send me an email over the past 2 months and not got anywhere, feel free to drop me a line because my inbox is now once again working. Thank fuck for that. All right, I'll let you folks get off and have a wonderful week. Enjoy, I don't know, are we due a heat wave? I don't know, something like that. Feels pretty warm. Enjoy the weather. I know I always bitch about the weather, but get outside, do something fun, get some vitamin D, some fresh air in your lungs, and spend some time with somebody you love. All right, people, I will catch you next week with, I don't know, somebody. It'll be awesome. You'll love it. I'll love it. All right, take it easy. Peace and love, folks.